It is some time after midnight, or close to it. The house has gone still. The heater has stopped its low sound. Outside the street is empty, and the only thing still moving in the room is your mind. You know this hour. You have met it before. The body is tired. The day is over. And yet some part of you keeps working, turning something over, a thing that was said, a thing you did. A moment you would shape differently, if the night would only let you reach back and change it. It will not let you. That is the quiet trouble of this hour. The day is finished, and the mind has not agreed to be finished with it. Tonight we sit with a man who understood that trouble better than almost anyone who has lived. His name was Baruch Spinoza. He ground glass lenses for a living in a rented room in Holland 3.5 centuries ago. In the evenings he wrote one book, slowly, by hand. People who met him said the same thing again and again. He was calm, not numb, not cold, calm in a way that made the people near him feel steadier just by sitting in the room with him. He was not born calm. He earned it. And the thing he understood, the thing we will follow all the way down into sleep tonight, is simple to say and takes a life to learn. The mind does not suffer from what happened. It suffers from its quarrel with what happened. Hold that gently. We will come back to it many times before morning. You do not need to follow every word tonight. You are not here to study. If your attention drifts, let it drift. The parts that matter will find you. This is not a lecture, and it asks nothing of you. It is closer to sitting in a warm room while someone you trust talks quietly, and somewhere in the talking, your breathing slows. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the weight of your body where it rests. You do not need to change anything. Spinoza had a word for the thing your mind is doing right now, this turning over of the past. He would have called it bondage. Not a heavy word in his hands. He meant something precise. To be in bondage, for Spinoza, is to be moved by something you do not yet understand. The argument from this afternoon moves you, and you cannot quite say why, and so you are not free of it. It has you. His whole quiet project, the work of his short life, was a way out of that. Not by force. Not by telling yourself to stop thinking about it, which never works, as you have surely noticed by now. He found another door. We are going to walk toward it slowly. There is something I want to set down here at the start, the way you set a stone on a table so you remember to pick it up later. In the last pages of the book Spinoza spent his life writing, there is one sentence. It is nearly the last thing he says before he lays down the pen. We are not ready for it yet. You would hear it now, and it would sound like words. By the time we reach it, hours from now, near sleep, it will sound like the truest thing anyone has told you. So we leave it on the table. We will come back for it. For now, only this. The day is over. Nothing that happened today can be reached or fixed or argued with. It is finished. And a thing that is finished cannot hurt you the way a living thing can. It only feels alive because your mind is still holding it close to the fire. We are going to let it cool. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire and could not sleep either, once wrote a line to himself at night in his tent on a cold frontier. "You could leave life right now," he wrote. "Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not being grim, he was doing what we are doing now. He was setting the day down by remembering how small it was against the size of everything. Let your jaw soften. There is no hurry here. We have all night, and we are only at the beginning. So let us take one step deeper. Chapter 2. Why the mind gets louder when the world goes quiet. There is a strange thing about this hour, and it is worth naming, because once you see it, you stop blaming yourself for it. Your mind is not louder at night. The world is just quieter. All day there were 100 small sounds to stand between you and your own thoughts. The phone, the work, the voices, the list. Each one was a hand on your shoulder, turning you outward. Then the day ends, the hands lift, and the thoughts that were there the whole time finally have the room to themselves. So the first thing to understand is that nothing has gone wrong with you tonight. You are not broken because your mind is busy. You are simply alone with it, perhaps for the first time since morning, and it has been waiting. Spinoza knew this kind of quiet well. He arranged his entire life around it. He lived in a single rented room much of the time, first in a village outside Amsterdam, later in The Hague. He kept his needs small on purpose. A little bread, a little wine watered down, a pipe of tobacco. He turned down money when it was offered, he turned down fame when it came knocking, and it did knock. He wanted the quiet, because the quiet was where the work happened. But here is the difference between his quiet and the one pressing on you now. When Spinoza sat alone in his room at night, his mind was not at war. He had found a way to be alone with his own thoughts without being tormented by them. That is the thing we are after. Not an empty mind, a mind at peace with its own company. Notice your breath for a moment. You do not need to deepen it or slow it. Just notice that it is happening on its own, the way it has all day while you are busy, the way it will all night while you sleep. The mind that turns the past over and over is doing something it believes is useful. That is the part most people miss. It is not malfunctioning. It thinks it is solving a problem. It replays the conversation because somewhere inside it believes that if it runs the scene enough times, it will find the move that fixes everything. The word that should have been said, the choice that should have been made. Spinoza understood the mechanism precisely. He saw that we are pushed around by what he called the passions, the strong feelings that arrive without our consent, and the passions feed on confusion. The less clearly you understand a thing, the more power it has to move you. This will become important. For now, hold the small version of it. A clear thing is light, a blurred thing is heavy. The mind is heaviest at night because the day's events are still blurred, still half understood, still warm. Seneca, who lived 16 centuries before Spinoza and worried about many of the same things, wrote a line that belongs to this hour. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Think about how much of what kept you up last week never actually came to pass. The mind rehearses disasters that never arrive and replays wounds that have already closed. It does this because it cares about you. It is a clumsy kind of care. We can teach it a better one. Let your hands rest open. Nothing you hear tonight asks anything of you. The room Spinoza worked in had a small window and a bench and the tools for grinding glass. Fine glass dust hung in the lamplight. He was, by trade, a maker of lenses, the curved glass that goes into spectacles and telescopes and microscopes. There is a quiet rightness in that, which we will sit with later. A man who spent his days making it easier for other people to see clearly, and his nights writing a book meant to do the same thing for the mind. We will go to that bench soon. We will go back to the day his old life ended too, because you cannot understand his calm without seeing what he was calm about. He had real reasons to be bitter. He chose not to be. That choosing is the whole story, but not yet. For now, just let the quiet be quiet. The mind will keep offering you yesterday. You do not have to take it. Something shifts here. Let us follow it. Chapter 3, Amsterdam, 1632. To understand a calm man, it helps to know what he had to be calm about. So we go back, before the lens bench, before the famous book, to a child in a city of canals. Baruch Spinoza was born in Amsterdam in 1632 into a community of Portuguese Jews. Their families had fled the Inquisition a generation or two before, driven out of Spain and Portugal, and they had built a new life in the more tolerant air of the Dutch Republic. They had a synagogue. They had merchants and scholars. They had, at last, a place where they could practice openly what their grandparents had been forced to hide. It was a community that had survived by holding tightly together. Remember that. It matters for what comes next. Baruch's father was a merchant, respected, busy with the trade in dried fruit and other goods that moved through the great port. The boy was bright. Everyone could see it. He was sent to the community school where he learned Hebrew, the Torah, the commentaries, the long chain of argument that ran back through the centuries. He was the kind of student teachers remember, the kind they have plans for. Picture him there, a boy bent over a text by candlelight, following an argument the way some children follow a river, just to see where it goes. He had a hunger for the structure of things. Not just what is true, but why it must be true, how one truth locks into the next. That hunger never left him. It became the shape of his whole mind. But something else was growing in him too, quietly, the way the most important things grow. He was beginning to ask questions that did not have safe answers. What is God, really? Not the word, the thing. What is the soul? What happens when we die? Is the world a collection of separate things, or is it, underneath, all one thing? He could not stop the questions, and he would not pretend to. That honesty, that refusal to look away from a question just because it was dangerous, was the seed of everything he would become and the seed of the trouble that was coming. His mother had died when he was young, just 6 years old. He knew early what it was to lose someone who does not come back. By the time he was a young man, he had lost more. The household had known grief and debt, and the hard work of a merchant family keeping itself afloat. He was not a sheltered boy spinning ideas in comfort. He knew the weight of real things. We tend to imagine philosophers as people who think because nothing has happened to them. Almost the opposite is true. The ones worth listening to about peace are usually the ones who had to find it. Spinoza is in that company. So is Boethius, who wrote the most consoling book of the Middle Ages while waiting in a cell to be executed. So is Viktor Frankl in our own century, who found a reason to live inside a place built to erase him. We will sit with both of them before the night is over. The pattern holds. Calm that means anything is calm that was won. Let your breath settle. Feel how the bed or the chair holds you. It does not ask you to hold yourself. So here is the young man then, brilliant, honest, grieving in the ordinary way that life teaches everyone to grieve, loved by a community that had high hopes for him. Standing, though he does not know it yet, very close to the edge of everything he has known. In a few years, the community that raised him will gather to push him out. They will read a curse over his name. He will be 23. And what he does in that moment, and in the years after it, is the reason we know his name at all. We will come back to that day. Hold it lightly for now. There is a reason he did not fight it, and we are not ready for the reason yet. Let us go on. Chapter 4. The day the doors closed. It was July in the year 1656. Baruch Spinoza was 23 years old. The leaders of the community gathered, and a document was read aloud in the synagogue. We still have the words. It is one of the harshest texts of its kind that survives from that time and place. It called down a curse upon the young man. It commanded that no one speak with him, or do him any favor, or stay under the same roof with him, or come within a few feet of him, or read anything he wrote. He was, in a single afternoon, cut off from his family, his friends, his teachers, his whole world. The word for it was kerem. We would call it excommunication. The plainer word is exile. Sit with the size of that for a moment, but gently, from a safe distance, the way you would look at a storm through a window. Everyone he had ever known was instructed to treat him as if he had died. His sister, the men he had studied beside, the community that had been, for his people, a hard-won refuge in a hostile world. Gone in an afternoon by a reading of words. Now here is the part that has puzzled people for 300 years, and the part that is the quiet center of tonight. He did not fight it. He did not beg to be let back in. He did not write furious letters. There is no record of bitterness, no campaign of revenge, no lifelong wound that he nursed and showed to visitors. He was offered, by some accounts, a yearly sum of money to simply keep up appearances, to show up and pretend. He refused it. He would not buy back his place with a lie. And then, calmly, he left and began to build a life on the other side of the door that had just closed. How? That is the question we are going to live inside tonight. How does a young man lose his entire world and not spend the rest of his life at war with the people who took it from him? He had every reason to. By every ordinary measure, he was wronged. The bitterness would have been understood. It would have been, we might even say, deserved. But Spinoza came to see bitterness as a kind of prison you build for yourself, brick by brick, out of a past you cannot change. And he wanted, more than he wanted to be right, to be free. I am going to leave this here, like the stone on the table from the first chapter. We are not ready to fully understand why he did not argue that day. The reason runs all the way to the foundation of his thought, and we have to lay some of that foundation first. So, hold the image, and we will return to it when you can feel the whole weight of it. A young man, the doors closing, and no war in his heart. He even changed his name. Baruch in Hebrew means blessed. After he left, he began to use the Latin form, Benedictus. It means the same thing, blessed. He kept the meaning and let go of the rest. There is something almost unbearably quiet in that gesture. Cursed by his community, he went on calling himself blessed, not in spite, in a kind of stubborn peace. Let your shoulders drop again. They have probably crept up while you listened. That is all right. Let them down. Tonight your mind is holding its own version of a closed door. Smaller, surely, than his, but the shape is the same. Something happened that you did not choose and cannot undo. A word said, a chance missed, a person changed, and some part of you is still standing at that door, pushing on it, certain that if you push hard enough, the past will give way. It will not give way. Spinoza knew that. And in knowing it fully all the way down, he found something better than a door that opens. He found the peace of no longer needing it to. That peace has a structure. It is not a mood. It can be understood, and what can be understood can be learned. We are going to learn it slowly tonight. Let us take the next step down. Chapter 5, Benedictus. He kept the meaning and changed the name. Baruch became Benedictus. Blessed in Hebrew became blessed in Latin. A man the community had cursed went on, quietly, calling himself blessed. I want to stay with that small act a little longer, because hidden inside it is the first piece of the structure we are building tonight. When you are wronged, there is a pull, strong and immediate, to organize your whole self around the wrong, to become, in your own mind, the person this was done to. We have all felt it. It offers something. It offers a kind of clarity, a story with a villain and a victim, and there is a bitter comfort in being the one in the right. But Spinoza saw the cost of that comfort. To build yourself around an injury is to keep the injury alive. The community read its curse once, in one afternoon, in 1656. A man who let that afternoon define him would have read the curse to himself every day for the rest of his life. The community cursed him once. Resentment would have made him curse himself forever. So he set it down. Not by pretending it did not happen. He never pretended. He simply refused to keep carrying it. Underneath this refusal is an idea that sits at the very root of his thought, and we should meet it now, because we will lean on it all night. Spinoza believed that every single thing in existence has within it a drive to keep on being itself. A tree reaches for light and water to go on being a tree. An animal flees danger to go on living. And a person at the core wants to persist, to continue, to keep being. He gave this drive a name. He called it conatus. The word means, roughly, effort or striving. From here on, we can just call it the drive to persist. Here is why that matters tonight. Resentment, when you look at it closely, runs against your own drive to persist. It spends your energy on something that is over. It takes the part of you that wants to live forward and chains it to a moment that is behind you. Spinoza did not let go of his old life because he was a saint, or because he felt nothing. He let go because holding on was a way of harming himself, and he understood himself too well to keep doing it. Feel the weight of your body again. Let the bed hold it. You are not being asked to forgive anyone tonight. That is a different conversation and not the one we are having. We are only noticing, gently, what it costs to keep a closed door warm. Spinoza walked out of the only world he had known with almost nothing. He had his mind, which no one could read him out of, and his hands, which could learn a trade. He went to live in quieter places, taking rooms with families who did not mind a lodger who kept to himself. He learned to grind lenses, and slowly, on the far side of his exile, he built a life that visitors would describe again and again with a single surprised word: serene. There is a letter years later where a man writes to Spinoza almost in disbelief, asking how he can be so sure, so untroubled when the world is full of opinions and noise. And Spinoza answers in effect that he does not claim to have found the best philosophy, only that he understands the true one. The calm did not come from certainty about everything. It came from understanding something. We will see, before the night is out, exactly what. There are two kinds of letting go, by the way, and only one of them lasts. I want to name that now and leave it the way we left the other stones. There is the letting go where you grit your teeth and force a thought down, and it stays down for an hour and comes back stronger. And there is another kind, quieter, more permanent, where a thing simply loses its grip on you and does not return. Spinoza found the second kind. Most of us only know the first. Before morning, we will find the door between them. Let the thought rest there, we will come back for it. Let us go deeper still. Chapter 6. The Lens Bench. Now we can go to the room I promised you. The small rented space, the bench, the tools, the fine glass dust hanging in the lamplight. Spinoza made his living grinding optical lenses. This was skilled, patient work. You take a piece of raw glass and you grind it against a curved form, slowly, checking it, grinding again, polishing, checking, until the curve is exact and the glass is clear. A lens that is even slightly wrong bends the light wrong, and the image blurs. The work rewards patience and punishes hurry. It is the kind of labor that quiets a person, the way certain repetitive, careful tasks have always quieted people. Bread baking, wood planing, the turning of a curve under the hands until it is right. He was good at it. His lenses were sought after. Some of the finest scientific minds of the age knew his work, because the new instruments, the telescope that reached up to the planets and the microscope that reached down into a drop of water, lived or died by the quality of their glass. Spinoza ground glass that helped people see what no one had seen before. I asked you chapters ago to sit with the rightness of this, and now we can. Here is a man whose entire philosophy is about seeing clearly, about how suffering comes from blurred, confused ideas, and peace comes from clear, distinct ones. And he spent his days with his hands, making the curved glass that turns a blur into a sharp, true image. He lived his philosophy at the bench before he ever wrote it in the book. The lens was the idea made of glass. There is a cost buried in this work that we should name quietly. The grinding of glass fills the air with fine dust, and breathing that dust year after year was almost certainly part of what wore his lungs out and ended his life early. He died at 44. He knew, very likely, that the work was not kind to his body. He did it anyway, because it bought him the one thing he would not trade: his freedom, his quiet, his own room and his own hours, and the right to think his own thoughts and write them down. That is worth pausing on tonight, when so much of what keeps us awake is the feeling that we have spent our days on things we did not choose. Spinoza chose. He chose smallness on purpose. A narrow bed, plain food, a single room, work that asked a price of his body, all so that the center of his life could stay his own. He was offered more than once a wider, easier, more honored life, and he looked at the strings attached to it and said gently, "No, let your hands rest. Notice that you are doing nothing right now, and nothing is wrong. The day asked a great deal of you. This hour asks nothing." When you picture him at that bench, do not picture a sad man. Picture a man at peace with the bargain he has made. The lamp is lit. The glass turns under his hands. Outside, the politics of Europe roar on, wars and rumors of wars, and inside the small room there is only the soft sound of glass against the grinding form, and a mind that has made itself quiet enough to think one careful thought after another. This is the man who is going to teach us tonight how to put down the day. He learned something at that bench that he built his whole philosophy on, and it is this: you cannot fix a blur by staring at it harder. You fix it by grinding the lens true. The mind is the same. You do not quiet a racing thought by fighting it. You quiet it by understanding it. The understanding is the grinding. The peace is the clear image that comes after. We are going to start grinding now. Let us take one step further down. Chapter 7, the first clear idea. Here is the idea at the center of everything. I am going to say it plainly, and then we are going to spend much of the night turning it over until it is smooth. An emotion that troubles you stops being a torment the moment you form a clear and exact picture of it. That is the heart of Spinoza's medicine. He wrote it into the fifth and final part of his great book, the part about freedom, the part about how a mind sets itself loose from the feelings that push it around. A painful feeling, he says, is a kind of confused thought. It is the mind reacting to something it does not fully understand, and the instant you understand it clearly, the feeling changes its nature. It stops being a thing that happens to you and becomes a thing you comprehend. The sting goes out of it, not because you forced the sting out, but because clarity and torment cannot occupy the same space. Let us make it concrete, because Spinoza always wants us to be concrete. Think of the last time you were angry at someone, really angry, the kind that loops at night. Now, imagine that later you learned the full story, that the person who snapped at you had just had terrible news, that the thing you took as an insult was exhaustion or fear or pain that had nothing to do with you. Notice what happens to the anger when the understanding arrives. It does not require effort to release it. It simply loosens on its own, because you can no longer hold the old picture once you see the true one. The clear idea dissolves the confused one. That is the whole engine. Spinoza built an entire philosophy of peace on it. We are pushed around by feelings exactly to the degree that we do not understand their causes. And we are set free not by suppressing the feelings, but by understanding the causes so clearly that the feelings change shape in our hands. Epictetus, the old slave who became a teacher in Rome, said a cousin of this long before Spinoza. People are not disturbed by things, he said, but by their opinions about things. The event is just an event. It is the story we wrap around it that wounds. Change the understanding, and you change the wound. Spinoza took that ancient insight and gave it a deep foundation, a whole architecture of why it must be true. Here is where the two kinds of letting go come back, the ones we named earlier. The first kind, the gritted teeth, is you fighting the feeling directly. Stop thinking about it, let it go, move on. And it does not work, because you are fighting a blur with willpower, and willpower runs out, and the blur is still a blur, so it returns. The second kind is different. In the second kind, you do not fight the feeling at all. You turn toward it, and you understand it, all the way down, until it is no longer confused, and then it releases you on its own, and it does not come back, because there is nothing left in it to come back to. That is the door. That is the whole door. The rest of tonight is just learning to walk through it slowly enough that your body believes it. Let your breath go where it wants. Let the understanding be enough. You do not have to do anything with this yet. The thing that is keeping you up tonight is, right now, a confused idea. Warm, blurred, half understood. We are going to hold it up to the light the way Spinoza held a lens, and turn it until you can see all the way through it. And when you can, it will weigh almost nothing. Let us keep going down. Chapter 8, Everything Follows. To understand a feeling all the way down, Spinoza says, you have to understand its causes. And once you really begin to do that, you arrive at one of the strangest and most freeing ideas he ever had. It takes some care to hold, so let us approach it slowly, the way you would approach any large, quiet thing in the dark. Spinoza believed that everything that happens necessarily. That nothing in the whole of nature could have been otherwise than it is. Every event is the result of the causes that came before it, and those causes are the result of the causes before them in an unbroken chain that runs back forever. The rain falls because of the conditions in the sky, which came from earlier conditions, which came from earlier ones, and human actions, he thought, are no different. What a person does flows from who they are and what has shaped them and the situation they stand in, all the way down. Now, the first time you hear this, it can sound cold. If everything had to happen, where is our freedom? We will come back to freedom properly later, because Spinoza has a beautiful answer and it is not the one you expect. But tonight, near sleep, I want you to feel only the gentle side of this idea, the side that loosens the grip of the past. If you truly take in that what happened could not have happened otherwise, given everything that led to it, then a certain kind of torment becomes impossible. The torment of if only. If only I had said the other thing. If only I had seen it coming. If only they had chosen differently. That whole family of midnight thoughts depends on a hidden belief that the past was loose, that it could have gone another way, that some better version was available and you missed it. Spinoza quietly removes the floor from under that belief. Given everything that was true in that moment, you, being who you were, knowing what you knew, feeling what you felt, did the thing that followed from all of it. So did they. It is not that you are excused. It is that there is no other reel of film. There was only ever the one. This is not meant to make you passive. Spinoza was not passive. He worked, he wrote, he chose, he refused money and honors. Understanding that the past was necessary does not stop you from acting wisely in the future. It only stops you from waging war on a past that cannot be refought. It takes the if only, which is a fight with a ghost, and lays it down. Marcus Aurelius reached for the same calm in his tent at night. Many of his notes to himself are simply reminders that things are what they are, that the nature of the world is to change and to pass, and that raging against it is like a man cursing the rain. Spinoza would have nodded. The rain is not your enemy. It is not anything's enemy. It is only the rain falling because it must. Feel how the bed holds you. Feel how little, right now, is actually required of you. The whole of the past is already complete. There is not one thing in it you can change tonight, and so there is not one thing in it you need to guard, or argue with, or fix. I said in the first chapter that there is a sentence waiting for us in the last pages of Spinoza's book. We are laying the ground for it now, stone by stone. Necessity is one of the stones. Clear understanding is another. We will set a few more through the long middle of the night, and then, near the end, The sentence will be ready, and so will you. For now, let the if only grow quiet. It has nowhere to go. There was only ever the one real, and it has already played. And you are here, safe, in the dark, with nothing to do but rest. Let us go on, gently. Chapter 9. The Accountant at 2 in the morning. There is a particular thing the mind does at this hour, and you may know it well. It begins to keep accounts. It tallies what is owed, the money and the time and the apologies, the things you should have done and did not, the things others should have done and did not. It adds and re-adds the columns, the debts of the past and the bills of the future, as if at 2 in the morning, in the dark, with nothing in your hands, you might finally balance the books of your life. You are not actually doing arithmetic. Spinoza would help us see that. The mind that keeps accounts at 2 in the morning is not trying to solve a math problem, it is trying to feel something. It is trying to feel in control. The tallying is a way of pretending that if every debt were named and counted, the chaos would resolve into order and you would be safe. But notice, the numbers never balance. They cannot, because the real problem was never the numbers. The real problem is the fear underneath them, the wordless sense that things are unsettled, that something is owed or unfinished, and the mind has reached for, counting the way a cold person reaches for any blanket within arm's length. Spinoza understood the passions as exactly this kind of confused response. The feeling is real, but the story the mind tells about the feeling is a guess, and usually a poor one. You feel unsettled, and the mind says it is because of the money, or because of what she said, or because of that decision 3 years ago. It hunts for a cause to pin the feeling to, and the moment it finds one, you are off, counting, replaying, fixing, fighting. And none of it touches the actual unsettledness, which is just the body, tired and tender at the end of a long day, asking for rest and being handed a ledger instead. So here is something you can do with the accountant, and it is very Spinozan. You do not argue with it, you do not tell it to stop counting, which only makes it count louder. You simply notice, with a little distance, what it is actually doing. The mind is tallying again. It thinks the numbers will make me safe. They will not, but I see why it tries. That small act of seeing, that step back, is the beginning of the second kind of letting go. You have moved just slightly from being inside the feeling to understanding the feeling. And we know what understanding does to a feeling. It begins very gently to dissolve it. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the mattress take the weight of you. There is nothing to count tonight. The accounts of a finished day are closed. They will keep until morning, and most of them, you will find, were never really owed. Seneca, counting his own losses 2,000 years ago, noticed that we are poor not because we have little, but because we are always reaching for more, always reckoning what is missing. The reckoning is the poverty. A man who stops counting at night is, for that hour, rich. He has exactly enough. He has a bed and a roof and breath moving in and out on its own, and the dark, which asks nothing. The accountant in your mind means well. It is one more clumsy form of care, like the rest of them. It is trying to keep you safe by keeping watch. You can thank it quietly and tell it the books are closed for the night and that you will look at the real ones, the ones that actually matter, in the daylight with rested eyes. For now, set down the ledger. Let the columns blur. Let the numbers drift apart and lose their hold. There is nothing to settle tonight. Let us go on. Chapter 10. Clear ideas and confused ones. Spinoza divided our ideas into two kinds, and once you see the difference, you start to notice it everywhere in your own mind. So let us lay it out plainly, because it is one of the most useful distinctions anyone has ever drawn. He spoke of adequate ideas and inadequate ideas. An inadequate idea is a confused one. It is a thought that comes to you partial, blurred, mixed up with feeling, where you see the effect but not the cause, the surface but not the structure. When you are simply pushed around by an emotion that is an inadequate idea at work, you feel the wave, but you do not see the water. An adequate idea is the opposite. It is clear and distinct. It understands not just that something is, but why it is, how it follows from its causes. When you have an adequate idea of a thing, you are not at its mercy. You comprehend it. And here is the move that is the whole of Spinoza's freedom. Every time you turn a confused idea into a clear one, you move from being passive to being active, from being moved to understanding, from suffering a thing to grasping it. The feeling that ruled you becomes a feeling you understand, and in that very change, its rule over you ends. Think of how this works in an ordinary life. A child feels a storm of something it cannot name and screams because a confused feeling with no understanding has nowhere to go but out. An adult, on a good day, feels the same rising storm and can say, "I am tired and I am frightened about tomorrow, and that is why this small thing feels so large." The naming is not a trick. It is the turning of a confused idea into a clearer one, and the clearer idea holds the feeling the way a cup holds water. Nothing spills. This is what we are doing tonight, you and I, with whatever is keeping you awake. We are turning a confused, warm, blurred idea slowly into a clear one. We named that it is the past, and that the past is finished, and that a finished thing cannot be changed, and that what cannot be changed cannot truly be fought, only understood. Each of those is a small grinding of the lens. The image is getting sharper, and as it sharpens, it gets lighter, because that is what understanding does to suffering. It does not add anything. It removes the confusion that gave the suffering its weight. William James, who helped found modern psychology 2 centuries after Spinoza, noticed that much of our distress is the distress of a mind divided against itself, half feeling and half fighting the feeling. The cure he pointed to was not more fighting. It was a kind of clear acceptance, a turning toward the thing as it actually is. Spinoza had drawn the map James was walking. See the thing clearly. Understand its cause. Watch the suffering change in your hands. Notice your breath without changing it. Notice that you understand right now a little more than you did an hour ago about why the night does what it does. That understanding is not just words. It is a clear idea forming where a confused one used to be. And clear ideas are quiet. They do not thrash, they rest. Let your jaw soften. Let the lens turn one more degree toward clear. There is a peace that comes only from understanding, and it is the most stable peace there is, because no one can argue you out of something you actually comprehend. We are walking toward that peace, one clear idea at a time. Let us take another step. Chapter 11, The Conversation You Keep Editing. Here is one of the most common shapes the past takes at night. A conversation, one that already happened, that is finished, that you cannot reach. And yet there you are, on the dark ceiling, editing it, saying the thing you wish you had said, delivering the line that would have ended it cleanly, running the scene again with a better script. You may be doing a soft version of it right now. If so, let us look at it together, gently, the way Spinoza would. Not to fight it, to understand it. What is the mind actually doing when it edits an old conversation? On the surface, it looks like it wants to win, to find the perfect words and finally come out on top. But look a little closer, the way we looked at the accountant, and you find something else underneath. The mind is not really trying to win the old argument. It is trying to feel something it did not get to feel, to be understood, to be seen as it wished to be seen, to have its hurt acknowledged. The endless editing is the mind circling a need that the real conversation left unmet. And here is the quiet, freeing thing. That need will never be met by the replay. You can rewrite the scene 1,000 times tonight, and the other person will not, in the morning, suddenly understand you. The replay promises satisfaction and delivers only exhaustion because it is reaching back toward a moment that is sealed. The conversation is over. It closed when it closed. What is still open is only the wanting, here, in you, in the dark. So, what do we do? Spinoza would not tell you to force the scene out of your mind. We know that does not work. He would tell you to understand it, to see clearly what is actually happening. Not a debate to be won, but a need to be felt. And then, having seen it, to ask the gentler question, the need under the replay. What is it really to be understood? All right. Can the replay give you that? No, it never could. Then the replay is not serving the need. It is only keeping the wound open in the hope that the wound will somehow close itself by being touched again and again. When you see that clearly, the editing loses its purpose. Not by force, by understanding. The mind keeps replaying a scene because it believes the replay leads somewhere. Show it clearly that the road is closed, and it slowly stops walking down it. Montaigne, who built himself a round tower of books after losing his dearest friend, wrote that the greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. The man who can belong to himself does not need to win the old conversation. He carries his own understanding of who he is, and it does not depend on whether the other person ever sees it. That is a kind of freedom too. It is close to what we are reaching for. Let your hands rest open. The conversation is over. Let it be over. The other person is asleep or far away or changed, and the version of them in your mind is only your own mind wearing their face. You can let that figure lower its voice now. You can let the scene go dark. What you needed from that moment, you can begin, slowly, to give yourself the understanding, the acknowledgement that it hurt. Yes, it hurt. That is true, and it is enough to say, you do not have to win it. You only have to set it down. Let the scene dim. Let us go on, deeper into the quiet. Chapter 12. What is in your hands? There was a man in ancient Rome named Epictetus who began his life as a slave, his very name meaning something close to acquired, a piece of property. He became, by the end, one of the most respected teachers of his age, and the calm at the center of his teaching is a cousin to Spinoza's, close enough that they could have been brothers across the centuries. Epictetus drew one line through the middle of everything, and he asked his students to learn it until it was second nature. Some things are within our power, and some are not. Within our power are our own judgments, our own choices, the use we make of our own attention. Not within our power is almost everything else. What other people do, what has already happened, the weather, the past, the opinions of the crowd, the turning of the world, and the whole of peace, he taught, lies in learning the difference and spending your effort only on what is yours to move. There is a story told about him. He had little by choice, much like Spinoza. One of the few things he owned was an iron lamp, and one night it was stolen. A lesser man would have raged. Epictetus simply noted that he had been attached to the lamp, and that the thief had paid a price for it too, the price of becoming a thief. The next night, he used a cheaper lamp of clay. The loss was real. He did not pretend it was not. But the suffering over the loss that he set down, because the lamp was gone, and the gone is not within our power, and there is no use grinding your peace away against it. Hear how close this is to where we have been all night. The past is not within your power. It is the most not within your power thing there is. It is finished, sealed, complete. Epictetus would say, then do not spend yourself on it. Make the best use of what is in your power, he taught, and take the rest as it comes. What is in your power right now, in this bed, in this dark, is small and real. Your attention, the slow choice to let your shoulders drop, the willingness to understand the night instead of fighting it, that is yours. The conversation from this afternoon is not. The decision from 3 years ago is not. The word you wish you had said is not. Spinoza takes Epictetus one step deeper, and it is worth seeing how. Epictetus says, do not waste yourself on what you cannot control. Spinoza says, yes. And here is why you can truly let it go, not just grit your teeth past it. Because what you cannot control did not just happen to be out of reach. It happened necessarily. It followed from its causes and could not have been otherwise. So there is nothing to mourn in the road not taken, because there was no other road. The two of them together make a complete piece. Epictetus draws the line between what is yours and what is not. Spinoza shows you that what is not yours could never have gone differently, so you can release it all the way with your whole chest and not just hold it at arm's length. Feel the weight of your body where it rests. Notice your breath moving without your help. Both of these are happening on their own, in the realm of what you do not have to control, and both are taking care of you while you do nothing at all. So much of the mind's night work is spent reaching for what was never in your hands. Tonight, you can let those things go back to where they belong, outside the small circle of what is yours. And inside that circle, there is almost nothing left to do. Breathe. Rest. Let the understanding hold you. If your mind has wandered off somewhere in the last few minutes, that is fine. Come back gently. We are still here. We are still going down. Let us continue. Chapter 13. The two kinds of letting go. We have circled this a few times now, and it is time to look at it directly, because it is the hinge of the whole night. There are two ways to let go of a thing, and they could not be more different, though we use the same words for both. The first way is the one almost everyone tries first. You decide to let it go. You tell yourself firmly to stop thinking about it. You push the thought down. You distract yourself. You white-knuckle your way past the feeling. And, for a little while, it seems to work. The thought sinks under the surface. But it is still there, holding its breath. And the moment your guard drops, at 2 a.m, in the dark, up it comes again, often stronger than before. This is letting go by force, and it fails reliably, for a reason Spinoza understood perfectly. You cannot defeat a feeling with willpower, because the willpower and the feeling are both just forces in you, and the feeling is usually the stronger one. You are trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Your arms get tired. The ball does not. The second way is the one we have been learning all night. You do not push the thought down. You turn toward it and you understand it, all the way to its roots, until it is no longer a confused blur, but a clear idea. And a clear idea does not need to be held down because it has stopped thrashing. It releases you on its own. This is letting go by understanding, and it lasts, because there is nothing left in the thing to come back to. You have not buried it. You have dissolved it. Carl Jung, working 3 centuries after Spinoza, found the same truth from the other direction. What you turn away from, he saw, gains power over you in the dark. The thing you refuse to look at runs your life from underneath. His counsel was to turn toward what we would rather not see, to bring it into the light, because only what is seen clearly can be integrated and set down. Who looks outside, he wrote, dreams. Who looks inside awakes. It is the same medicine in a different bottle. You do not free yourself from what haunts you by looking away. You free yourself by looking at it clearly enough that it stops being a ghost. So, when the thought comes tonight, the one you have been fighting, I want to offer you the second way instead of the first. Do not tell it to leave. Turn toward it calmly and ask what it actually is. A finished thing, a sealed conversation, a road that was never open, a need underneath, asking to be felt. Look at it until it is clear, and then notice that, seen clearly, it weighs almost nothing, and it has already begun to loosen its hold. Let your breath move on its own. You are not fighting anything right now. There is no beach ball under the water. There is only a mind slowly understanding and a body slowly resting. This is the difference between a peace that lasts 5 minutes and a peace that lasts the first kind, is a wall you have to keep holding up. The second kind is a wall that was never needed because the thing on the other side turned out to be smaller than the fear of it. There is a thinker who helps here, a woman named Hannah Arendt, who knew something about being cast out. She fled her own country in the last century and lived for years stateless, without a home to claim, interned for a time, then escaped, carrying almost nothing. Out of all that, she drew a quiet distinction that belongs to this hour. Loneliness, she said, is not the same as solitude. Solitude is being alone with yourself, in good company, the self keeping the self company. Loneliness is the ache of being cut off, even in a crowd, from yourself and from others. And the strange thing, she noticed, is that the cure for loneliness is not more people, it is solitude. It is learning to be at home with yourself, so that being alone becomes a kind of rich company rather than an exile. She thought this quiet being with yourself was the very root of thinking, the soundless dialogue of the mind with itself, two voices in one person talking the trouble over until it grows clear. Hear how this fits the two kinds of letting go. The first kind, the gritted teeth, is a self at war with itself, one part forcing another part down. That is a kind of loneliness, even alone in a dark room. The second kind is solitude, the self sitting with the self, in good company, turning the trouble over together, gently until it is understood. Tonight, you are not lonely in the dark. You are in solitude, the good kind. The self keeping the self company, closer to friendship than to exile. So, if some of the night has felt lonely, let it turn now into solitude. You are not cut off here. You are in your own good company, in the warm, small room of your own quiet attention, where nothing is forced and everything is allowed to be understood and set down. We are practicing the second kind tonight. We have been practicing it since the first chapter, turning the night over slowly in the light until it grows clear and quiet. Let us go further down. The deepest part is still ahead, and it is the most peaceful. Chapter 14, God or Nature. We come now to Spinoza's most famous idea, the one that got him called both an atheist and, by some, a man drunk on God. We will hold it gently, the way we hold everything tonight, for its calming side, and let the arguments sleep. Spinoza did not believe in a God who stood outside the world and watched it, judged it, intervened in it. He believed instead that God and nature are two names for one and the same infinite reality. Everything that exists is part of this single, vast, unified whole. There is not the world on one side and God on the other. There is only the one thing, expressing itself in endless forms. And you and I and the lamp and the rain and the dark outside the window are all part of it, all waves of the one sea. He wrote a phrase for this that has echoed for centuries: God or nature. As if to say, you may use either word. They point at the same single, boundless, living whole. Now here is why this matters at 2 a.m. If the whole of nature is one unified system unfolding by its own necessity, then it is not, at any point, for you or against you. The universe is not arranged to punish you. It is not plotting your humiliation. It is not withholding good from you out of spite. It is simply being itself, vast and lawful and whole, and you are a part of it, carried along inside it like everything else. For some people this is a cold thought at first, but sit with it a moment longer in the dark and feel the mercy folded inside it. So much of our night suffering comes from a hidden sense that we are being singled out, that this happened to me, that the world has it in for me, that there is some personal verdict being read over my life. Spinoza lifts that weight. There is no verdict. There is no one keeping a private file on your failures. There is only the immense, impersonal, lawful unfolding of the one reality in which the painful thing that happened to you was a wave like any other, rising and breaking because the water moved as it had to move. You are not being punished, you never were. The thing that hurt you was not aimed. The rain does not fall on you, it simply falls. And you are standing where you are standing, part of the same sky. There is a strange peace in being that small and that held. You are not the center of a cosmic trial. You are a brief, real, particular part of something boundless and quiet that is simply being what it is. The pressure of being watched, judged, singled out can come off your chest. No one is keeping score in the dark. There is only the dark, and you in it, both of you part of the one whole, both of you allowed to rest. Let your shoulders drop. Feel how the bed holds you, the way the earth holds the bed, the way the night holds the earth. You are inside something far larger than your trouble, and it is not against you. It was never against you. Lao Tzu, far to the east and long before, pointed at something similar when he wrote of the Tao, the way of things, which nourishes everything without ruling over it, which is soft as water and yet wears down stone. The wise person, he said, moves with it rather than against it. Spinoza would have understood. You do not have to fight the current of what is. You can let it carry you here into sleep. Let us go on softer now. Chapter 15. Hope and fear are the same thing. Spinoza noticed something about hope and fear that almost no one notices. And once you see it, the swinging of the mind at night makes a new kind of sense. We usually think of hope and fear as opposites. Hope is the good one, fear is the bad one, and we want more of the first and less of the second. But Spinoza looked closer and saw that they are not opposites at all. They are twins. They are the same thing wearing two faces. Both hope and fear are forms of uncertainty about something not in our control. Hope is uncertainty leaning toward a good outcome. Fear is the same uncertainty leaning toward a bad one. And because they are made of the same cloth, they always come together. There is no hope without fear folded inside it, and no fear without a thread of hope. The more you hope a thing will go well, the more you fear it will not. They rise and fall together, two ends of one rope. Watch your own mind at this hour, and you may catch it doing exactly this. It swings from hope to fear and back, sometimes in the space of a single minute. Maybe it will be fine, but what if it is not? Maybe they will understand. But what if they never do? Maybe tomorrow goes well, but what if it goes badly? Back and forth, hope and fear, hope and fear, the rope sawing across the same raw place. It is exhausting precisely because it never resolves. It cannot resolve because both ends are tied to something you do not control and cannot know. Spinoza's way out is not to hope harder. Hoping harder only fears harder. His way out is to trade the whole swinging rope for something steadier, understanding. When you understand a thing clearly, you no longer hang suspended over it in hope and fear. You see what is actually in your power and what is not. You do what is yours to do, and the rest you release, not into hope, which is just fear in better clothes, but into acceptance, which is calm. The mind that understands stops swinging. It comes to rest the way a pendulum comes to rest at the bottom, at the lowest and most stable point. This is worth knowing tonight, because the hour is full of hope and fear about tomorrow, about the unresolved thing, about how it will all turn out. And I want to offer you Spinoza's quiet alternative. You do not have to resolve any of it now. You could not, even if you tried all night. Tomorrow is not within your power tonight. So you can take the whole rope, both ends, the hope and the fear, and lay it down. Not replace the fear with hope. Lay the whole thing down. What needs doing, you will do tomorrow, with rested eyes and a clear mind. Tonight there is nothing to decide and nothing to know, and so there is nothing to hope or fear, only a body in the dark, breathing, held. Feel that breath. It is not hoping, it is not fearing, it is just moving in and out, doing its quiet work without any opinion about tomorrow. Epicurus, in his garden outside Athens, taught his friends that much of our fear is fear of things that will never touch us, or that, when they come, will be nothing like we imagined. He wanted them to live in the present, where life actually is, rather than in the imagined future, where the twins of hope and fear do all their work. Spinoza would have walked gladly in that garden. The present moment, this one, asks nothing of you and threatens nothing. It is the one place the rope cannot reach. let the rope go slack. Let us go down another step. Chapter 16. The Win That Felt Like Nothing. Let us turn, for a chapter, to a different kind of night thought. Not a wound, but an emptiness. You may know this one too. It is the memory of getting the thing you wanted and feeling nothing. The promotion that arrived and landed flat. The goal reached after years. That gave you one clean afternoon of relief and then a strange hollowness. You expected to feel proud or full or finally arrived. Instead, there was a quiet puzzlement, and underneath it, sometimes a small guilt for not feeling what you were supposed to feel. And on certain nights, the mind returns to that hollowness and circles it, asking, why was it not enough? What is wrong with me that it was not enough? Spinoza can help here too, with that idea of his we met early, the conatus, the drive in each thing to persist in being itself. He saw that what we call desire is this drive, taking particular shapes. We want this, we pursue that, we strive toward the goal. But he also saw clearly that the things we chase are often not the things we actually need. We fix the whole drive of our life onto money or status or winning, because these seem solid, seem like they will finally satisfy the restlessness. And then we reach them, and the restlessness is still there. Because it was never really about the money or the status. Those were guesses the mind made about what would bring it to rest. The win felt like nothing, because winning was never the real aim. It was a stand-in for something deeper, harder to name, that no achievement delivers. Spinoza thought the deepest satisfaction, the only one that does not turn to ash, comes from understanding, from the mind grasping reality clearly and resting in that grasp. He called the highest form of this an intellectual love, a calm joy in seeing how things truly are. It is not a prize you win, it is a way of seeing you grow into. And unlike the promotion, it does not go flat because it is not chasing anything. It is already at rest in what is. So if your mind circles an old empty win tonight, you can offer it a clear idea in place of the confused one. There was nothing wrong with you for feeling little. You felt little because you had reached a thing that was never going to fill the space it promised to fill. That is not failure. That is information. It is the drive to persist, telling you honestly that it is looking for something steadier than another prize. And the steadier thing is closer than any prize. It is here, in the quiet, in the clear seeing of what is, in the rest that does not depend on winning anything at all. Feel the weight of your body. Notice that right now you are striving for nothing, chasing nothing, and that this is not emptiness, but a kind of fullness. You have arrived nowhere, and it is enough. You are simply here, and here asks nothing more of you. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who had won everything a man could win, an empire, absolute power, the obedience of millions, wrote to himself at night that none of it was worth as much as a quiet mind. He had tested the prizes against the peace, and the peace had won. He was, in his tent on his cold frontier, reaching for exactly what you can have for free in this bed tonight. a mind at rest in what is. There is nothing to win tonight. There never was. Let us go on. Chapter 17, The Emperor Who Wrote at Night. Picture a tent on the edge of the empire. It is the year 170, or near it. Outside, a cold river marks the frontier, and beyond it, the tribes that Rome has been fighting for years. Inside, by a small lamp, a tired man sits with a notebook. He is the most powerful person in the known world. He is also, at this hour, just a man who cannot quite sleep, writing notes to himself to steady his own mind. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and the notebook became the book we now call the Meditations. He never meant for anyone to read it. That is part of why it is so trusted. It is not a performance. It is a man, night after night, talking himself back toward calm. And much of what he wrote is about exactly the thing that keeps you up. The replaying, the resentment, the grievance held against people who wronged him, and he was wronged often, by courtiers, by allies who betrayed him, by the ordinary cruelty of people. One of his lines goes straight to the heart of it.
"How much more grievous," he wrote, "are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." Read that again, slowly. The thing that was done to you caused a certain amount of harm.
The anger you carry about it causes more. The original wound was one blow. The resentment strikes you again every night you pick it up. Spinoza, 15 centuries later, would have agreed completely, and he would have explained the mechanism. Resentment is a passion, a confused idea, the mind reacting to a wrong it has not fully understood and cannot release. And like all the passions, it does not harm the person it is aimed at. It harms the one who carries it. The person who wronged you is asleep tonight, or gone, or has forgotten the whole thing. The anger is not touching them. It is here, in your chest, in your jaw, in the tightness behind your eyes, doing its slow damage to you alone. Marcus had a practice for this, and it is gentle enough to use tonight. When someone wronged him, he tried to understand why they acted as they did, not to excuse it, but to see it clearly. People do wrong, he reasoned, out of their own confusion, their own fear, their own ignorance of the good. They are, in a way, already suffering from whatever made them act that way. Seeing this, he found the anger harder to hold. It is the same move we have made all night. Understanding loosens the grip. The clear idea dissolves the confused one. You cannot stay enraged at someone once you truly see the frightened, limited, struggling cause behind what they did. So if there is a person in your mind tonight, someone you are still quietly at war with, you might try what the emperor tried in his tent. Not forgiveness, if that word is too big right now. Just understanding. They did what they did because of everything that made them who they are, exactly as Spinoza said, following from causes unable in that moment to be otherwise. It is not that it was right. It is that it was caused, and the cause was their own kind of suffering. And you do not have to carry the second blow, the anger, on top of the first. Let the war end for tonight. You can pick it back up in the morning if you truly want it, but I suspect you will find in the light that you do not. Most of what we guard at night looks much smaller at dawn. Feel your jaw. It may be tight. Let it soften. Let the people in your mind lower their voices and turn away and go back to their own sleep as you are going to yours. The emperor put down his pen each night a little lighter than he picked it up. Let us do the same. Let us go on. Chapter 18. A stranger kind of freedom. We have been circling Spinoza's idea of necessity, that everything follows from its causes and could not have been otherwise. And the natural worry, the one I promised we would face, is this. If everything is necessary, then what becomes of freedom? Are we just machines pushed along with no say at all? It is a fair question, and Spinoza's answer is one of the most beautiful turns in all of philosophy. So let us take it slowly, here in the quiet, where there is time. Most people think freedom means being undetermined, being able to have done otherwise, a loose cog spinning however it likes. Spinoza says, no, that is not freedom. That is just randomness, and randomness is not freedom either, because a thing flung about by chance is no more its own master than a thing pushed by force. Real freedom, for Spinoza, is something else entirely. To be free is to act from your own nature, from a clear understanding of what you are and what is. A thing is free, he says, when it is determined to act by itself, by its own understanding, rather than pushed around by outside forces it does not comprehend. So, freedom is not the absence of causes. It is a particular kind of cause. It is being moved by your own clear understanding rather than by confused passions you did not choose and cannot see. Hear what this means. The person ruled by resentment, by the replay, by the swing of hope and fear is not free, even though they feel they are choosing. They are being pushed by forces they do not understand. The person who has understood those forces clearly, who sees the necessity in things and acts from that clear seeing, is free, even though everything they do still follows from causes. Freedom is not escaping the chain of necessity. It is understanding it so deeply that you move with it instead of being dragged by it. This is why Spinoza could lose his whole world and stay calm. He was not free because he could undo the past. No one can. He was free because he understood the past so clearly that it no longer pushed him around. The exile happened necessarily from its causes. Fighting it would have been being dragged by a passion. Understanding it was freedom. He did not break the chain. He saw it whole, and in seeing it whole, he was no longer its prisoner. He was its student. There is a line of his, gentle and famous, that belongs to this hour. A free person, he wrote, thinks of nothing less than of death, and his wisdom is a meditation not on death, but on life. He did not mean that the free person denies death or runs from it. He meant that a mind at peace is not gnawed by dread of what it cannot control. It turns, instead, toward understanding, toward life, toward what is. The free mind does not spend the night in the graveyard of the past or the dread of the end. It rests in the clear, lit present. which is the one place freedom actually lives. So tonight, you are not reaching for the freedom to change what happened. That freedom does not exist for anyone, ever. You are reaching for the other freedom, the real one. The freedom of understanding the past so clearly that it stops dragging you. And that freedom is available right now, in this bed, in the dark, because it asks nothing of the world and everything of your own clear seeing, which is the one thing fully in your hands. Let your breath move on its own. That too is a kind of freedom. The body, knowing what to do, doing it without force. Let us go deeper toward rest. Chapter 19, The Self You Outgrew. Here is another shape the past takes at night, quieter than a wound and easy to miss. It is grief for a version of yourself that no longer exists. Maybe it is the person you were before a certain loss. Maybe it is who you were when the children were small and the house was loud. Maybe it is the self that had a title, a role, a place that defined you, and then the role ended through retirement or change or simply time, and you found yourself on an ordinary Tuesday with no alarm and no clear name for who you now are. People expect freedom from that kind of change, and are surprised to feel instead a strange invisibility. The identity was stitched into the role, and when the role was gone, part of the self seemed to go with it. Spinoza understood that we are not fixed things. Remember the conatus, the drive in each thing to persist in being itself. But the self that persists is not a frozen statue. It is more like a river. The same river, even as the water moving through it, is never the same water twice. You have been many selves already. The child in Amsterdam became the exile, became the lens grinder, became the philosopher, and Spinoza did not mourn each earlier self as he left it behind. He let the river be a river. The pain of clinging to an outgrown self is, again, the pain of fighting necessity. The person you were then existed because of the conditions of then. Those conditions have passed, necessarily, into new ones, and a new self has formed to meet them as it had to. To demand that you still be the old self is to demand that the river stop flowing and become a block of ice. It is to argue, once more, with what cannot be changed. And there is a quiet mercy here if you turn toward it. The self you grieve was not better than you. It was you, at an earlier bend in the river, meeting earlier conditions. The you that exists now is just as real, just as whole, simply shaped to a different moment. You have not lost yourself, you have only flowed onward, as you were always going to, as everything does. There is a way the old self can stay with you that does not require clinging. You do not outgrow your younger selves the way you outgrow a coat, leaving them behind in a closet. You carry them gently, folded inside who you are now, their lessons and their loves still part of the water. The parent of small children is still in you, in how you love. The person you were before the loss is still in you, in what you learned to hold. Nothing real is gone. It has only moved deeper in. So if tonight you find yourself mourning a self that the years took, you can offer that grief a clear idea. That self was a bend in the river, and the river was always going to flow on, and the flowing is not a loss, but a life. You are not less for having changed. You are simply further along, carrying all of them with you into the dark toward rest. Hermann Hesse wrote a whole book around this image, the story of a man named Siddhartha who spends his life searching, becoming many selves, a seeker, a merchant, a lover, a tired and broken man, and who finds his peace at last beside a river in the company of a quiet ferryman named Vasudeva. The ferryman teaches him almost nothing with words. He teaches him to listen to the river. And the river says, when Siddhartha finally hears it, that the water is always flowing and yet the river is always there, that the child and the man and the old man are all present at once in the moving water, that nothing is lost, only carried. Hesse wrote that book through his own breakdown, his own midlife collapse, trying to find what Siddhartha finds, the river that holds every self at once. Your life is a river like that. The selves you have been are not gone downstream, lost forever. They are the same river, still flowing, still here, still you. Listen to it the way the ferryman listened, and you may hear that nothing real has been taken, only moved along, only carried gently forward in the one moving water that is your life. Feel the weight of your body, this body, the one you have now, at this bend in the river. It is enough. It is the only one the night requires. Let your shoulders drop. Let the old selves rest too. They are not gone. They are sleeping with you, inside you. Let us go on. Chapter 20. The Wheel of Fortune. Let me tell you about a man who wrote the most comforting book of an entire age while waiting in a cell to die. His name was Boethius. He lived in the years around 500, when the Roman world was breaking apart. He had been a man of high office, wealthy, learned, honored, near the top of everything. And then, through the turning of politics, he fell. He was accused, stripped of everything, imprisoned, and sentenced to death. In that cell, with everything taken, and the end coming, he wrote a book called The Consolation of Philosophy, and it consoled Europe for 1,000 years after him. In the book, as he sits in despair, a figure comes to him. He imagines philosophy herself, a calm woman who sits with him in the cell and talks him back from the edge. And one of the first things she shows him is the wheel of fortune. Fortune, she says, is always turning her wheel. She raises people up and brings them down, and this is simply her nature, what she does, what she has always done. To be lifted by fortune is to accept, in the same breath, that the wheel may turn again. The man who curses fortune for taking what she gave has misunderstood the bargain from the start. She never promised to stop the wheel. The wheel is the whole of what she is. But here is the deeper turn, the one that makes the book immortal. Philosophy shows Boethius that everything fortune can touch was never truly his to begin with. The wealth, the office, the honors, these were always on loan, always on the wheel, always subject to the turning. What fortune gives, fortune can take. But there is something fortune cannot reach. She cannot reach the mind. She cannot reach his capacity to understand, to reason, to find the good. That was never on the wheel. That is his, and it remains his, even in the cell, even at the end. Hear how close this is to Spinoza, who would be born 1,000 years later and arrive at the same calm by a different road. The things the world can take from you, it was always going to be able to take, because they were never fully yours. They were on the wheel. The job, the role, the relationship, the plan, the thing that did not work out, fortune turned as fortune does. To rage at the turning is to have misunderstood all along what kind of thing you were holding. And what cannot be taken, what is truly yours, is the same thing for Boethius and for Spinoza and for you tonight. Your own mind. Your capacity to understand, to see clearly, to find your peace not in what the wheel happens to be doing, but in a clear grasp of what is. That is below the wheel. Fortune cannot reach it. The thing that is keeping you up tonight, whatever the wheel took or threatens to take, cannot touch the deepest part of you, the part that is, right now, quietly understanding all of this. Let that part be enough tonight. It is the part that was never on the wheel. It is safe. It is yours. It is here in the dark with you, calm, awake, just enough to understand, and ready soon to rest. Feel your breath. Feel the bed. The wheel may turn however it turns. You are below it now, in the still place at the center where it cannot reach. Let us go on, down towards sleep. Chapter 21. The Room Behind the Room. A century before Spinoza, in a stone tower in the French countryside, another man went looking for the same quiet, and the way he described it is worth carrying into sleep with you. His name was Michel de Montaigne. In 1571, having lost his closest friend some years before, and then his father and his first child, he withdrew from public life to a round tower on his estate, lined it with books, and began to write. He invented, almost by accident, a new way of writing, the personal essay, the attempt simply to try to set down honestly what one human mind is actually like from the inside. His motto, carved for himself, was a question: what do I know? He trusted no easy certainty, least of all about himself, and that humility made him one of the most companionable voices in all of literature. Montaigne wrote that we should keep a back shop, all our own, entirely free, a room behind the room of our public life, where we set up our true freedom and our chief retreat. He did not mean a physical room only, though he had his tower. He meant an inner one, a place inside you that belongs to no one else, that no role and no relationship and no loss can enter without your leave. The greatest thing in the world, he wrote, is to know how to belong to oneself. This is a gentle and powerful idea for the night. So much of what keeps us awake comes in from outside. What they think, what they said, what is owed and expected. The whole crowded front shop of a life, full of other people's voices. Montaigne reminds you that there is a back shop, always, and that you can go into it, and that in there it is quiet and it is yours. Spinoza lived his whole life in that back shop by choice. The single rented room, the bench, the few books, the refusal of money and fame, all of it was the building of a back shop so complete that the world could not get in to trouble him. And from inside it, he could look out at the front shop of the world, the politics and the gossip and the turning wheel, with understanding instead of fear, because he was not standing out there in the noise. He was home, in the room behind the room. You have such a room too. You may not have visited it in a while. The day keeps us in the front shop, dealing with everyone, answering, performing, owing. But the room behind is still there. And this hour, the still hour after midnight, is the doorway to it. You can step back now, out of the crowd of voices, into the quiet place that is only yours. No one is there. No one is allowed there unless you bring them. It is the one room the day cannot follow you into. Feel yourself there for a moment, behind the noise, behind the owing, in the small, warm, private room of your own self, where you belong to no one but you, and where, right now, nothing is required and nothing is wrong. Let your shoulders drop. You are home in the back shop with the door closed against the noise. Let us rest here a moment and then go on. Chapter 22, A Wave in the Sea. If your mind has been drifting in and out, that is exactly right. You do not need to have followed every word. The parts that matter are finding you. And if you are still awake, still here, this is one of the parts I most wanted you to reach, so come back gently and let us sit with it together. We have built, through the long middle of the night, a kind of structure. Let me gather it for you simply, the way you would gather a few smooth stones into your palm before the last stretch of a walk. Everything that happens necessarily from its causes. The past could not have been otherwise. Suffering comes from confused ideas, and peace comes from clear ones. Freedom is not escaping necessity, but understanding it. And the whole of nature is one vast, unified thing, not for you and not against you, simply being itself, with you inside it. Now let me give you an image to hold all of that, one that Spinoza's whole vision points toward. You are a wave in the sea. A wave rises, takes its shape, moves for a while across the water, and sinks back. While it lasts, it is real, particular, itself, this wave and no other. And it is also, the whole time, nothing other than the sea. It is not separate from the water. It is the water briefly taking a shape. It does not need to fear the sea or fight the sea or earn its place in the sea. It is the sea doing one of the countless things the sea does. You are like that. You rose, you took your particular shape, your name and your history and your face, and you are moving for a while across the great water of what is. And the whole time, you are not separate from it. You are it briefly shaped into you. The thing that hurt you was another movement of the same water. The people in your life are other waves of the same sea. And the rest you are reaching for tonight is not something you have to build against the sea. It is the sea itself which has held you the entire time, and into which every night you are allowed to relax back and be held, and rise again in the morning. The sentence I left on the table in the very first chapter, the one from the last pages of Spinoza's book, is getting closer now. We are almost ready for it. We have laid the necessity and the clear ideas and the freedom and the one whole sea. A little further, and the sentence will be ready, and so will you. For now, just hold the wave. You do not have to hold yourself up. The water is doing that. Feel the breath move in and out like a small tide, with no effort from you. Feel the body held, the way a wave is held, by something far larger and entirely calm. You are not separate, and you are not alone, and you do not have to keep yourself afloat tonight. You never did. The sea has you. Let us go on, gently, toward the deep. Chapter 23. The shift you gave yourself. Let us look at one more of the night's familiar shapes, because naming it clearly takes much of its power away. It is the lit rectangle in the dark room, the inbox at midnight. One more message, one more reply, one more scroll, the cold light of the screen on your face while the rest of the house sleeps. Or it is the work that follows you to bed, the problem you keep turning over, the sense that you must stay on, stay vigilant, stay available, even now, even here. Notice something about this, gently. No one assigned you this shift. There is no one standing over you at midnight, demanding that you keep working, keep watching, keep solving. You took the shift yourself. Somewhere along the way, you became your own hard manager, the one who will not let you clock out, who treats rest as a thing to be earned and never quite earns it. The demand feels external, like the world requires this of you. But look closely and you find the source is inside. You assigned it to yourself. Spinoza would recognize this immediately as a kind of self-made bondage, the most common kind there is. We are pushed around not only by other people and outside events, but by our own confused ideas about what we must do, what we owe, what will happen if we ever truly stop. The mind has built a story in which resting is dangerous, in which letting go of the vigilance means everything falls apart. And, like all the passions, this story runs on confusion. It has never been tested clearly, because the moment you would test it, by actually resting, the fear rises and pulls you back to the lit screen. So let us test it now, clearly, in the safe dark. What would actually happen if you put it down for the night? The message will be there in the morning, and answered better by rested eyes. The problem will be there too, and clearer eyes will see further into it. The vigilance you are holding is not protecting anything that the night could harm. It is only burning you quietly in the place where rest should be. You are allowed to clock out. There is no shift tonight. The manager in your mind, the one who will not let you stop, is just another clumsy form of care, trying to keep you safe by keeping you working. You can thank it, as we thank the accountant, and tell it the work is done for the day, and that you, the deeper you, the one below the manager, are taking the night off. Lao Tzu wrote that the way of things gets its work done without strain, that the soft and yielding outlasts the hard and forcing, that water which never strives wears down the stone. The vigilant, forcing part of you believes that only its constant effort keeps the world from falling. But the world rests every night and rises again. The tide goes out and comes back without being told. You are allowed to be like the tide tonight, to go out, to stop holding, to trust that the going out is part of how you return. Put down the lit rectangle of the mind. Let the screen go dark. There is no shift. There is only the dark and the bed and the breath and the long permission of the night. Let us go on, down into that permission. Chapter 24, How to Quiet a Feeling. Spinoza did not just describe how the mind suffers. He left, in the last part of his book, something close to a set of remedies. Practical ways to weaken a feeling that has too much power over you. They are not tricks. They are ways of forming clearer ideas, which is the only thing that ever truly loosens a passion. Let us walk through a few of them, slowly, because you can use them here tonight. The first remedy is the one we have built the whole night on. Form a clear and distinct idea of the feeling itself. Turn toward it and understand it, rather than away from it in fear. The moment a confused feeling becomes a clearly understood one, Spinoza says, it stops being something that simply happens to you. We have done this again and again tonight. The accountant understood. The replay understood. The vigilance understood. Each one, seen clearly, grew quieter. The second remedy is to separate the feeling from the thing you have pinned it to. We tend to fuse a feeling to a single cause. I feel this way because of him, because of that. Spinoza noticed that when you loosen that fusion, when you stop insisting the feeling belongs to one external villain, the feeling weakens, because much of its force came from the story, not from the fact. The unsettledness you feel tonight is real. The story that it is all because of one person, one moment, one mistake is a guess, and usually too simple. The third remedy is to see the many causes behind anything rather than one. Spinoza understood that everything arises from a vast web of causes, not a single one. When you see how many threads led to a thing, how it grew out of countless conditions reaching back endlessly, you can no longer hold it as a simple grievance with a simple villain. The anger needs a single target. The understanding sees a whole world of causes, and in that wide seeing, the anger has nowhere to land. And the fourth, the deepest, is the one we have been circling. To understand the necessity of things. To see that what happened followed from its causes and could not, given everything, have been otherwise. This, Spinoza says, is the most powerful remedy of all, because the mind suffers most over what it believes could have been different. Show the mind clearly that there was only ever the one road, and the suffering over the road not taken simply has nowhere to stand. These four are really one motion, seen from four sides. Understand the feeling, loosen it from its single story, see its many causes, grasp its necessity. All of it is the grinding of the lens, the turning of a blur into a clear image, until the feeling, fully understood, weighs almost nothing. You have been doing this all night, perhaps without naming it. The thing you came to bed carrying is lighter now than it was 2 hours ago, not because you fought it, because you understood it. That is the whole of Spinoza's gentle science, not a battle against the feelings, a patient, clear seeing that sets them down one by one. Feel how much quieter the mind is now than when we began. Notice it without grasping at it. The quiet, too, you do not have to hold. It is simply what is left when the confusion is understood and laid down. Let us go further. The deepest calm is just ahead. Chapter 25, The Chair He Would Not Take. In 1673, a letter reached Spinoza that would have changed any ordinary man's life. The University of Heidelberg, a respected and ancient place, offered him a professorship, a chair of philosophy, a salary, a position of honor, the security and the standing that most thinkers of the age spent their whole lives hoping for. And there was just one condition, stated gently. He would have the freedom to philosophize, the letter said, so long as he did not use that freedom to disturb the publicly established religion. Spinoza thought about it, and he said no. He wrote back, courteously, thanking them, but he saw the string tied to the gift, the quiet limit on what he could think and say, and he would not take it. He did not know, he wrote, within what bounds that freedom would have to be confined so as not to seem to disturb the established religion, and he would rather keep the freedom he already had in his single rented room, grinding lenses for his bread, than trade it for honor and security bought at the price of offense around his own mind. Sit with that choice for a moment, here in the dark. A poor man, in fragile health, doing physically costly work for a modest living, was offered comfort, status, and safety. And he looked at the one small condition attached to it and walked away, back to his bench and his lamp. Because the thing he would not sell was the back shop, the room behind the room, the freedom to follow his own clear understanding wherever it led. He had lost his community for that freedom already. At 23, he was not going to quietly sell it back now for a salary. There is a lesson in this for the night, and it is not about grand refusals. Most of us will never be offered a university chair, but all of us constantly are offered small comforts in exchange for small fences around the self. The approval we could have if we just did not say the true thing. The peace we could keep if we just performed the expected role. The belonging we could buy if we just stopped belonging quite so much to ourselves. And Spinoza's quiet life stands as a reminder that some bargains are not worth the price, and that a free mind in a small room is richer than a fenced mind in a palace. Whatever you may be holding tonight about not having enough, about the comfort or status that slipped past you, you might set it beside Spinoza's choice. He had less than almost anyone, by the world's count, and he was, by every account, one of the most contented men of his age. Not because he had nothing, because what he had freely, and it was entirely his, and no one had a string on it. The contentment was not in the things, it was in the freedom. And freedom, the real kind. The kind that is a clear understanding of what is, costs nothing the world can charge you for. It is available in a rented room, It is available in this bed tonight for free. Feel how little you actually need right now to be at peace. A bed, a roof, breath, the dark, the slow understanding that has been building all night. It is enough. It was always going to be enough. Let us go on, down toward the stillest place. Chapter 26, 3 Ways of Seeing. Spinoza thought there were 3 ways the mind can know anything, 3 levels of seeing, and the climb from the first to the third is, in a way, the climb from a restless mind to a peaceful one. Let us walk up the 3 steps slowly. They are gentle, and the top step is the quietest place in all his thought. The first kind of knowing he called imagination, though he meant something broader than daydreaming. He meant the knowledge we get from the surface of things, from hearsay, from loose impressions, from the way things happen to strike us. It is knowing by association, by rumor, by the jumble of half-formed pictures the day leaves in us. Most of our night thoughts live here, at this first level. The replay, the worry, the vague dread, the story half believed. It is the most confused kind of knowing, and so it is the most troubled. The second kind he called reason. This is clear, careful understanding, seeing how things follow from their causes, grasping the structure beneath the surface, reasoning step by step from what is true to what must therefore also be true. This is the level we have been climbing toward all night, turning confused impressions into clear ideas. It is a great rise above the first level. At this level, you understand. And understanding, as we have seen, is where peace begins. But Spinoza named a third kind of knowing, higher than reason, and he held it in a kind of quiet awe. He called it intuitive knowledge. It is when you do not just reason your way to a truth step by step, but see it whole, all at once, the way you suddenly grasped the sense of a face or the meaning of a piece of music, not by adding up parts, but by taking in the whole in a single, clear seeing. At this level, Spinoza thought, you see particular things in their place within the whole of nature, see them as flowing from the one vast reality, and you meet them not with struggle but with a calm, clear love. He gave that calm joy a name we will come to before the night ends. You do not have to climb all the way to the third step tonight by effort. That is not how it works. The third kind of seeing comes on its own, as a gift when the lower confusions have been cleared away. What you can do is what we have been doing. Clear the first level. Turn the confused impressions into understood ones. And then simply rest, open, in the quiet that follows, and sometimes in that quiet the whole thing is seen at once, and there is a peace that no argument gave you and no argument can take away. That is the peace at the top of the stairs. The peace of seeing your small trouble in its true place. A wave in the sea, a moment in the endless unfolding, necessary, understood, and held. From up there, the thing that kept you up looks exactly as large as it actually is, which is to say, small and passing and already nearly gone. Feel the breath, feel the bed. Let the first level, the jumble of impressions, settle like silt in still water. You have done the clearing. Now you can simply rest in the quiet at the top of the stairs and let the whole be seen, or not, as it comes. Let us go on, softer now, towards sleep. Chapter 27. The Quiet Ground of No. Here is a smaller, closer memory the mind sometimes brings to this hour, and it deserves a gentle look because it is often misread. It is the memory of a time you said no. You set a limit. You declined what was asked. You chose yourself, for once, over the endless pull of what others wanted. And then, almost immediately, the guilt arrived. The old familiar guilt, telling you that you were selfish, that you should have given more, that a better person would not have drawn the line. And so on certain nights, the mind returns to that no and worries it, asking, was I wrong? Was I unkind? Should I not have? Spinoza would help you see this clearly, and the clear sight is a relief. Remember the conatus, the drive in each thing to persist in being itself. He did not think of this as a flaw or a sin. He thought it was the very core of what a thing is. To preserve yourself, to keep your own being, to not be endlessly drained and dispersed by every demand, is not selfishness in the ugly sense. It is the basic, healthy striving of a living thing to remain itself, a candle that lets itself be used to light every room until it gutters out helps no one for very long. A person who never says no, who has no backshop, no room behind the room, slowly stops being a person at all and becomes only a surface for other people's needs. So the no you said, the limit you drew, was very likely not a failure of love. It was the healthy drive of a self to keep being a self. And notice, underneath the guilt, if you look, there is usually something else. A quiet steadiness, a sense of ground. The guilt is loud and arrives first, but beneath it is often a calm rightness, the feeling of having finally stood somewhere instead of being pulled everywhere. That quiet ground is the truer feeling. The guilt is the confused idea. The steadiness is the clear one. This does not mean every no is wise or that we owe nothing to others. Spinoza thought we are deeply bound up with one another, that nothing is more useful to a person than another person living by reason, that we need each other to flourish. But he also knew that you cannot pour from an empty vessel, that a self worn to nothing has nothing left to give, and that the drive to preserve your own being is not the enemy of love, but its foundation. You have to remain in order to give. The no that keeps you whole is in service of every yes that matters. So if the mind brings you an old no tonight, wrapped in guilt, you can offer it the clear idea. That was the healthy drive of a self to keep being itself. Underneath the guilt is solid ground. You are allowed to stand on it. You are allowed to remain. Feel the ground of the bed beneath you, holding you up without asking anything. You do not have to earn your rest tonight by having given enough today. You are allowed to simply rest and remain and be. Let your shoulders drop. Let the guilt thin out and the steadiness rise. Let us go on. Chapter 28. Almost there. If you are still here, still faintly awake, come back for just a moment, gently, because we are very close to something now, and I want you near it when it comes. In the 4th chapter, hours ago, I left a door half open and asked you not to walk through it yet. The day in July of 1656, when the young man stood in the synagogue and heard the curse read over his name and lost his entire world in an afternoon and did not fight it, I told you there was a reason he did not argue, and that the reason ran all the way to the foundation of his thought, and that we were not ready for it yet. We have spent the whole long middle of the night laying that foundation, stone by stone. We are nearly ready now. In a few chapters, we will go back to that door and walk through it, and you will understand all the way down how a man loses everything and keeps his peace. And there is the other thing still waiting too. The sentence on the table from the very first chapter, the last real line of his great book. It is close now. We have laid the necessity and the clear ideas and the freedom that is understanding and the one whole sea and the 3 ways of seeing. Just a little further, and both of these waiting things, the door and the sentence, will open at the same time near sleep, and you will be ready for them. For now, simply notice how far you have come tonight without trying. When we began, the mind was turning the day over and over, holding it close to the fire. Now it is quieter, not by force, by understanding. We did not fight a single thought into submission. We turned them, one by one, in the light until they grew clear and lost their weight. The accountant, the replay, the vigilance, the guilt, the empty win, the wheel, the old self, one by one, understood and set down. This is what Spinoza promised, the thing that sounded almost too simple when we first heard it. An emotion stops being a torment the moment you form a clear and exact picture of it. You have been proving it on yourself all night in your own quiet mind. The proof is the calm you are lying in right now. If your mind has been drifting, that is good. Drifting is the body beginning to trust the dark. You do not need to stay sharp for what comes next. In fact, it is better if you are soft, half here, letting the words move past you like water. The understanding has already done its work. What remains is mostly rest. Feel the weight of your body, heavier now, more willing to sink. Feel the breath, slower now, deeper, asking nothing. We are close to the stillest place, and you are nearly ready to stay there. Let us go on, almost whispering now, down toward the door and the sentence. And sleep. Chapter 29. The Garden. Long before Spinoza, in a garden on the edge of Athens, a man named Epicurus gathered his friends and tried to teach them how to be unafraid. His name has come down to us tangled in misunderstanding, as if he taught endless feasting and luxury. He taught almost the opposite. He lived simply on bread and water and a little cheese, in the company of friends. And he thought the whole purpose of philosophy was to cure the suffering of the mind, especially its 2 great fears. the fear of the gods and the fear of death. About death, he said something that has steadied frightened people for more than 2,000 years. Death is nothing to us, he taught, for while we exist, death is not present, and when death is present, we no longer exist. There is no moment when you and your death meet. You are never there to suffer it. The fear, he saw, is the mind frightening itself with a meeting that can never take place. We are not here tonight to think about death, and I raise Epicurus for a gentler reason, because his garden holds a cure for the fear of the past as well as the fear of the end. Epicurus saw that we live almost everywhere except where life actually is. We live in the future, in dread and craving. We live in the past, in regret and longing. And we miss, in the middle, the only place that is ever actually here, which is the present moment, the one place no fear can truly reach, because fear is always about somewhere else. The mind at night is a great traveler into the past and the future. It goes back to the conversation, forward to tomorrow, back to the mistake, forward to the dread. Almost never does it rest in the only place that is real, which is this breath, this weight, this dark, this bed, bet. Epicurus, in his garden, would point you back again and again to the present, where, he promises, there is far less to fear than the mind insists. And notice it is true. Right now, in this actual present moment, are you in any danger? Is anything at this instant harming you? The mind says yes, because it is off in the past and the future, where all the trouble lives. But here, in the real present, there is only a resting body and a quiet room. The threat is never in the now. It is always in the mind's travels. And tonight, you are allowed to stop traveling, to come home to the present, where Epicurus waited for his friends among the fruit trees, and where there is, truly, nothing to fear. Blaise Pascal, the French thinker who knew his own restless mind well, once wrote that all of humanity's troubles come from a single thing: our inability to sit quietly alone in a room. He saw how we flee the present, how we fill every quiet moment with distraction and diversion, precisely because the bare present, with nothing in it to chase, frightens us. We would rather be anywhere than simply here. And so we are restless, always, reaching past the now toward the next thing and the next, and never arriving. Augustine, centuries before Pascal, named the same restlessness and where it finally ends. Our heart is restless, he wrote, until it rests. He meant something vast by that resting, but the seed of it is small enough to hold tonight. The restless reaching of the mind, past the present, into the past and the future, is looking for a rest it can only ever find here, in the now, in the quiet room it keeps fleeing. The very thing it runs from is the thing it is looking for. Spinoza loved this clear seeing, this turning toward what actually is. His whole piece was a piece of the present, of the mind resting in its clear grasp of reality rather than torturing itself with what was and what might be. He and Epicurus, across the centuries, both point you to the same quiet ground. Here, now, this, the only place you have ever actually lived, and the one place the past cannot follow. Feel the present, the real one, the one your body is in, the breath here, the weight here, the dark here. Nothing in it is asking anything, nothing in it is harming you. It is, in fact, completely safe, this small now, and you are allowed to stay in it and rest. Let us go on, into the now, towards sleep. Chapter 30, How You Actually Let Go. We are ready now for the thing I have promised since early in the night. The second kind of letting go, the one that lasts. We have circled it many times. Now let us land on it fully, because it is the quiet center of everything, and once you truly have it, the night is almost done. You cannot release yesterday by deciding to release it. We have seen this. The decision is the first kind of letting go, the gritted teeth, the beach ball under the water, and it always fails, because a feeling is not moved by an order. You have told yourself 1,000 times to let things go, and the things did not obey, and you concluded perhaps that you were weak or broken or bad at peace. You were none of those. You were simply using the only tool you had been given, willpower, against the thing that willpower cannot move. Here is how you actually let go. Not by deciding, by understanding. You release yesterday when you finally see clearly, all the way down, that it could not have been otherwise. That it followed from its causes, as everything does, and that there was never a second version available for you to have chosen instead. When you see that fully, the fight goes out of you on its own, because there is nothing left to fight. You cannot keep struggling against a door once you truly understand it was always a wall. The struggle does not require willpower to stop. It stops itself the moment the understanding is complete. This is the difference that took Spinoza out of his exile a free man instead of a bitter one. He did not decide to forgive the community that cast him out. Deciding would never have held. He understood. He saw that they acted as they had to, from their own fear, their own confusion, the causes that made them who they were, exactly as he had acted from the causes that made him who he was. He saw the whole thing as a piece of necessary nature, a wave in the sea, not a crime to be avenged, but an event to be understood. And once he understood it that completely, there was nothing left to release, because the grip had already opened. Understanding is the opening of the hand. You do not have to pry the fingers back. They simply let go, because they finally see there was never anything there to hold. So the thing keeping you up tonight, the yesterday you cannot release. Stop trying to release it. Trying is the first kind, and it will not work. And you will only exhaust yourself and call it failure. Instead, understand it, see that it happened from its causes and could not, given everything, have been otherwise. See the many threads that led to it, the fear and confusion in everyone involved, including yourself, all of it following necessarily from what came before. See it as a wave in the sea, real and finished and not aimed at you. And then notice that, seen that clearly, your hand has already opened. You are not holding yesterday anymore. You are only watching it with understanding as it drifts back into the great water where it belongs. That is how you let go, not with force, with sight. The hand opens itself when the eye sees clearly. It always has. No one ever taught us, so we spent years prying at our own fingers. But the fingers were only ever waiting for the eye to understand. Feel your hands right now resting open in the dark. They are not holding anything. They do not have to. Let them be the picture of the mind tonight. Open, released, understanding, at rest. You have let go. You did it the way it is actually done. Let us go on, lighter now, towards sleep. Chapter 31. The body knows first. There is a small moment many people know, and it teaches something Spinoza understood deeply, so let us sit with it. It is the moment you finally put the phone face down. The day has been long and lit and loud, and the phone has been in your hand, buzzing, pulling, and at last you turn it over, screen to the table, and go quiet. And before any thought arrives, before you decide anything, the body notices relief first. The shoulders come down a half inch. The breath goes a little deeper on its own. Something in the chest unclenches. The body knew, before the mind did, that it had been braced, and it lets go the instant it is allowed. Spinoza had a radical idea about the mind and the body, one that was centuries ahead of his time. He did not think they were two separate things, a soul piloting a machine. He thought the mind and the body were one and the same reality, seen two ways. The mind, he said, is in a sense the idea of the body. What happens in one is happening in the other, because they are not two. They are a single thing expressed in two manners. This is why the body knows first. It is not a separate servant reporting up to the mind. It is the mind in another form. The tension in your jaw is a thought. The clench in your chest is a feeling. They are not symptoms of your mental state. They are your mental state, written in muscle instead of words. And this means that the body is a doorway to peace just as real as understanding, because they are the same door seen from two sides. So tonight, as the understanding has been quieting the mind, let the body in on it too, since they are one. Feel where you are still braced. The jaw, perhaps, the shoulders, the hands, the small of the back. Wherever the day is still being held in the muscle, let it be allowed to come down, the way the shoulders come down when the phone goes face down. You do not have to force the body to relax. You only have to allow it, to give it the same permission the understanding has been giving the mind. They will quiet together, because they were always one thing. Notice your breath, that meeting place of body and mind, moving on its own, slower now. Notice the weight of your limbs, heavier now, more willing to be held. The body has been waiting all day, all night, for permission to set the day down. You can give it that permission now. There is nothing left to brace against. The understanding has cleared the threats. The body can believe it. Let the shoulders come down the last half inch. Let the jaw be soft. Let the hands be heavy. Let the whole held day melt out of the muscle and into the bed, where it can be carried by something other than you. The body knew first. Let it teach the rest of you now. Let us go on, down into the warm and heavy quiet, towards sleep. Chapter 32. The Last Freedom. There is a man from our own time who learned, in the hardest school that has ever existed, the deepest version of everything we have said tonight, and his name was Viktor Frankl. Frankl was a psychiatrist in Vienna who was taken, during the war, into the camps where almost everything a person can have was stripped away. His freedom, his family, his work, his name, his comfort, even his own clothing and the manuscript he had spent years writing. In a place designed to reduce human beings to nothing, he watched, with a doctor's clear eye, what was left of a person when everything had been taken. And he found that something remained, always, that could not be taken by any force, no matter how total. What remained was the freedom to choose your own response. The last of the human freedoms, he called it. They could take everything, but they could not take the inner attitude you took toward your own suffering. In the worst place imaginable, this remained yours. And he saw that the people who held on to some meaning, some reason, some inner yes, survived in spirit in a way the others did not. When we are no longer able to change a situation, he wrote, we are challenged to change ourselves. Hear how this completes everything Spinoza taught 3 centuries later, from inside an experience Spinoza never had to endure, the situation that cannot be changed. The past that is finished, the loss that is real, the door that has closed. Spinoza says, understand its necessity, and the suffering loosens. Frankl, from the deepest pit, adds the final turn. And then, inside what you cannot change, you still have the freedom to choose what you become in response to it. That freedom no necessity can touch. It is the one thing the wheel can never reach, the one thing below all the turning, and it is always, always yours. This is not a heavy thought for the end of the night. It is the lightest one, because it means that whatever happened, whatever you cannot change, whatever is keeping you up, the most important thing is still entirely in your hands, not the power to undo the past. No one has that. But the power to choose who you become because of it, to let it make you bitter or to let it make you deeper. To carry it as a grievance or to carry it as understanding. That choice was never taken from you. It is yours tonight, in this bed, as fully as it was Frankl's in the worst place on earth. And the beautiful thing is that the choice gets easier the clearer your understanding becomes. A confused mind chooses bitterness almost automatically, because bitterness is the reflex of a mind that does not understand. A clear mind, a mind that sees the necessity and the wholeness and the wave in the sea, finds the deeper response close at hand, almost natural. The understanding we have built all night is what makes the last freedom easy to use. You see clearly, and so you can choose well. And what you choose tonight is peace. Feel the body heavy and held. Feel the breath slow and sure. The past is what it is. finished and necessary. And who you become in response to it is yours, the last freedom never taken, fully yours, here, now, in the quiet. Let us go on. Toward the door in 1656, and the sentence, and sleep. Chapter 33, The Clearing. There is an emptiness some people meet on a quiet Sunday, or on any day with nothing in it, and it can feel, at first, like a kind of dread. No plans, no demands, no one needing anything. And instead of relief, a strange hollowness rises, a sense of being adrift, even a faint panic, as if the emptiness itself were a danger. The mind, used to being filled, does not know what to do with the space, and so it reaches to fill the space with worry, with the past, with anything rather than the bare quiet. Spinoza would understand this, and so would a woman named Simone Weil, a French philosopher of the last century who thought more deeply about attention than almost anyone. Weil saw that we are usually so busy, so full of our own activity and noise, that we never actually attend to what is. She thought that real attention, the pure kind, the kind that simply waits and looks without grasping, was rare and difficult and close to the highest thing a person can do. Attention, she wrote, taken to its highest degree, is the same thing as prayer. Most of us flee the empty space because in it we would have to actually attend, and attending is unfamiliar, and at first it feels like falling. But here is the turn, and it is a quiet one. The emptiness is not a void. It is a clearing. The same open space that feels at first like dread is, if you can stay in it without panic, the most spacious and restful place there is. The hollowness slowly stops feeling like a lack and starts feeling like room. Room to breathe, room to simply be without performing or producing or filling. The Sunday with nothing in it is not a desert, it is a meadow. The mind only called it a desert because it had forgotten how to rest in open space. Tonight is such a clearing, the night after midnight, with nothing in it, no demands, no plans, no one needing anything. And the mind, out of old habit, has been trying to fill it with yesterday, with worry, with the replay, because the bare quiet felt, at first, like falling. But we have spent the night learning to stay in it without panic. And by now you can feel, perhaps, that the emptiness is turning into spaciousness, that the clearing is not a danger, but a rest, that there is room here, finally, simply to be held and to breathe. You do not have to fill the night. You do not have to fill the quiet with anything at all. The emptiness you may have feared is the very thing you came here for. It is the clearing where rest lives. Let it be empty. Let it be open. Let it be the spacious, undemanding room it actually is, and let yourself lie down in the middle of it, with nothing to do and nowhere to be. Feel the open quiet around you. It is not a void. It is room. It is the clearing, and you are safe in the middle of it, and it asks nothing, and it is enough. Let us go on into the open quiet towards sleep. Chapter 34, Backwards and Forwards. There is a line from the Danish thinker Søren Kierkegaard that holds a small key to the whole night, so let us turn it over once before we go further down. Life can only be understood backwards, he wrote, but it must be lived forwards. Sit with the gentle trap in that understanding runs one direction, living runs the other. We can only make sense of our lives by looking back after the fact, when the pattern has formed. But we have to live facing forward into what we cannot yet see. And the deep trouble of the mind at night comes from confusing the two, from trying to live backwards, from facing the past not to understand it, but to re-enter it, to redo it, to live there. There is a world of difference between looking back to understand and looking back to relive. Looking back to understand is wisdom. It is what we have done all night. We returned to 1656, to the lens bench, to the old conversations, to the empty win, not to crawl back into them and suffer them again, but to see them clearly, to grasp their causes, to let understanding loosen their grip. That kind of looking back sets you free. It is the second kind of letting go, but looking back to relive is bondage. It is the mind trying to face backwards while life keeps moving forward, like a person walking into the future with their head turned around, stumbling because they will not look where they are going. The replay at night is this. It is not understanding the past. It is trying to live in it, to be there again, to change what cannot be changed by re-entering it one more time. And it fails, always, because the past is not a place you can live. It is only a place you can understand. So the medicine is not to stop looking back. Spinoza looked back constantly, all the way down to first causes. The medicine is to look back only to understand, and then to turn around and face forward where life actually is. Understand yesterday fully, clearly, and then let it be understood behind you, and turn your face toward the open dark of what is coming, which tonight is only sleep, and tomorrow is only tomorrow, met with rested eyes. You have understood the past tonight as much as it needs understanding. You do not have to keep facing it. You are allowed to turn around now, gently, away from the backward looking, toward the forward dark, which holds nothing tonight but rest. The understanding is done. The living, the forward-facing, begins with simply lying here, breathing, letting the night carry you toward a morning you do not have to see yet. Feel yourself turning, softly, away from yesterday, toward the quiet forward dark. There is nothing behind you that needs you now. It is all understood. It is all set down. You can face forward into the rest and let the past keep itself. Let us go on, facing forward now, toward sleep. Chapter 35, Rest in Oneself. Spinoza had a word for the calm that comes after understanding, and it is one of the most beautiful words in all his work. In his Latin he called it acquiescentia, which we might translate as a kind of rest in oneself, a quiet acquiescing, a settling of the spirit into its own clear understanding. It is not the dull peace of numbness, and it is not the brittle peace of having won an argument. It is the deep, stable contentment of a mind that understands and rests in its understanding and needs nothing further. He thought this rest in oneself was one of the highest things a person could feel, because it does not depend on anything outside you. The peace that depends on things going your way is always trembling, because things may not go your way. The peace that depends on other people's approval is always anxious, because approval can be withdrawn. But the rest that comes from understanding depends on nothing external at all. It is yours. No one gave it to you, and no one can take it. It is the quiet of a mind that has seen clearly and come home to itself. You may be feeling the edges of it now. After a night of turning the confused into the clear, there is a settling, a coming to rest that is not the same as simply being tired. It is the spirit acquiescing, agreeing at last to be where it is, to accept what is, to stop fighting the finished past and stop clutching at the unknown future and simply rest here in the clear and quiet present. That settling is acquiescentia. That coming home is what Spinoza spent his whole life learning, and what he found in his small room, at his bench, in his short and contented life. Notice that this rest does not require anything to have been fixed. Nothing about your circumstances has changed since you lay down tonight. The thing that was unresolved is still unresolved. The thing you cannot change is still unchanged. And yet there is peace, real peace, available right now, because the peace was never going to come from fixing the circumstances. It comes from understanding them and resting in that understanding. Spinoza's whole radical promise is that this rest is available in any circumstance. Even an exile, even a small poor room, even a body wearing out, because it is built not on the world cooperating, but on the mind seeing clearly. And clear seeing is always within reach. So let yourself rest in yourself now, not because everything is solved, but because you understand, and understanding is enough. Let the spirit acquiesce, agree, settle, come home. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else you need to do. There is only this rest in yourself, deep and stable and entirely your own, which no one can reach and no one can take. Feel the settling, feel the coming home. The mind, after its long night of clearing, resting at last in its own quiet understanding, asking nothing, lacking nothing, at home in what is. Let us go on, resting now, toward the door in 1656, which we are finally ready to open. Chapter 36, Why He Did Not Argue. If you are still here, drifting near the edge of sleep, stay with me for just this one. We have come at last all the way back to the door I left half open in the 4th chapter hours ago. We are ready now to walk through it. And if you fall asleep in the middle of this chapter, that is perhaps the most fitting place of all to go. July 1656. Amsterdam. A young man of 23 stands in the synagogue and hears the curse read over his name. Everyone he has ever known is told to treat him as dead. His family, his teachers, his whole world closing against him in a single afternoon, and he does not fight it. He does not beg, does not rage, does not spend his life in bitterness. He changes his name to Benedictus, which means blessed, and he walks out, and he builds a calm and contented life on the far side of the closed door. I told you there was a reason he did not argue, and that the reason ran all the way to the foundation of his thought. We have laid that whole foundation now, so here is the reason, plainly, at last. He did not argue because he understood. He saw that the men who cast him out were not free agents choosing cruelty out of nowhere. They were acting from their own causes, their own fear, their own need to protect a fragile community that had survived by holding tightly together. Given who they were and what they feared, they did what they had to do, as necessarily as rain falls from a heavy sky. To rage at them would have been to rage at the rain. He understood the necessity of it all the way down, and the understanding opened his hand. There was nothing to fight, because there had never been a version where it went otherwise. There was only the one real, and it had played, and he was free to walk forward into his own life, rather than stand forever at the closed door, pushing. And he saw, too, that bitterness would only have harmed himself. The community read its curse once. Resentment would have made him read it to himself every day for the rest of his life. He would not do that to himself. He understood that the second arrow, the anger, would wound him alone, and he set it down before it ever struck. He took, in that moment, the last freedom, the one Frankl found in the worst place on earth. They could take his world. They could not take who he chose to become in response. And he chose not bitterness, but understanding. Not a grievance carried for 60 years, but a clear mind and a quiet room and a name that meant blessed. That is how a man loses everything and keeps his peace. Not by feeling nothing. He felt it all, but by understanding it so completely that the understanding opened his hand and let it go. The same way you have been opening your hand all night around your own smaller closed door, your own finished thing, your own yesterday. You did it the way he did it, not by deciding to let go, by understanding, until the hand opened on its own. And now your hand is open in the dark, holding nothing, free. Feel it, the open hand, the quiet mind, the closed door behind you that no longer needs pushing. You are walking forward now, into your own life, into the rest, the way he walked out of the synagogue and into his. Blessed, not cursed. Free, not bitter. Understanding and at peace. Let us go on, very softly now. The sentence is almost here. Sleep is almost here. Chapter 37, The Love of What Is. We have reached the highest and gentlest thing in all of Spinoza's thought, and it deserves to be spoken softly, near sleep, because it is less an argument than a kind of quiet joy. Spinoza thought that when you understand the world deeply enough, when you see things clearly in their place within the one whole of nature, something happens that is more than understanding. A kind of love arises. Not love of a person, not the love that wants and grasps and fears to lose. A calm, clear love of reality itself, of the vast order of what is, of the necessity and wholeness of the world as it actually is. He gave it a name that glows quietly at the very summit of his book: the intellectual love of God, or, since God and nature were one to him, the intellectual love of the whole of what is. It is hard to say plainly, so let me come at it the way you might come at a feeling rather than a thought. Have you ever, on a clear night, looked up at the sheer size of the sky and felt, instead of fear at your own smallness, a strange peace in it? A sense of being a small, real part of something immense and lawful and quietly beautiful. Not a thing you needed to fix or fight or master, just a vast order you could rest inside. That feeling, deepened and made steady, is close to what Spinoza meant: the love of what is, the calm joy of understanding your place in the whole and finding that place not frightening but home. This love is the opposite of the war the mind wages at night. The war says, "This should not have happened. This is wrong. The world owes me otherwise." The love says, "This is what is, vast and necessary and whole, and I am a part of it, and I can rest in it rather than fight it." The war exhausts. The love, this clear love of the order of things, rests. It is the deepest acquiescence, the fullest coming home. It is a person finally at peace, not just with their own past, but with the whole nature of which their past was one small wave. You do not have to reach the summit tonight by effort. No one climbs there by trying, but you can feel its direction. You can feel, perhaps lying here, the faint beginning of it, a willingness to stop fighting what is, a softening toward the whole vast order that holds you, the night, the dark, the turning earth, the breath moving in your chest by laws you did not write and do not have to manage. A quiet yes to being a small, real, held part of something immense and calm. That yes is the love Spinoza meant. It is the highest peace he found, and the last gift of a mind that has understood. And it is available to you here, now, not as a thought to grasp, but as a softening, to allow the love of what is, the rest at the center of everything. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke offered a gentler door into this same love. In a letter he wrote to a young man who was troubled by all the things in his life that had no answer yet. "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart," Rilke told him, "and try to love the questions themselves. Do not demand the answers now, which you could not be given anyway, because you could not yet live them. Live the questions. And perhaps," he wrote, "you will gradually, without noticing it, live your way into the answer." There is something of Spinoza's love of what is in that. Not a frantic demand that the unresolved thing resolve tonight. A patience with it. Even a tenderness toward it. The thing in your life that has no answer yet can be held gently, loved as a question, lived with rather than fought. You do not have to solve it tonight. You could not, even if you tried all night. You can only love the question, be patient with it, and rest, and let the living, slowly, carry you toward whatever answer it holds. Feel the vastness holding you, and feel, instead of fear, a quiet yes. You are a small, real part of something, immense and lawful and kind enough to hold you while you sleep. Let us go on, softer still, toward the sentence and rest. Chapter 38, The Pond. Let me take you for a chapter to a small cabin beside a pond in the woods of Massachusetts, because a man who lived there for a while understood something about setting down that belongs to this hour. His name was Henry David Thoreau, and in 1845 he built himself a small cabin at Walden Pond and went to live there, alone, simply, for 2 years. He went, he said, because he wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if he could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when he came to die, discover that he had not lived. He wanted to strip his life down to what was actually necessary, to clear away the clutter of getting and spending and find out what was underneath. He noticed, watching his neighbors, that the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation, always busy, always reaching, always burdened by things they thought they needed and labor they thought they owed, and rarely stopping long enough to ask whether any of it was bringing them closer to a life worth living. He built his cabin by his own account for a tiny sum, and he kept 3 chairs in it. 1 for solitude, he said, 2 for friendship, 3 for society. A whole philosophy of a life in 3 chairs. Room to be alone, room for a friend, room, if needed, for the wider world, and no more than was needed. Spinoza, in his single rented room with his bench and his few books, would have understood Thoreau's cabin completely. Both men had discovered the same quiet truth, that most of what we carry we do not need, that the burdened, desperate busyness of an ordinary life is largely a burden we have agreed to carry, and that we can, if we choose, set much of it down. And that underneath all the getting and owing and performing, there is a simple, sufficient life available to anyone willing to clear the clutter and live deliberately in the essential facts. Tonight is a kind of cabin by a pond. The day's getting and spending has stopped, the clutter has fallen away. And here you are in the essential facts, which are very few and very simple. A body, a breath, a bed, the dark, the quiet. This is what is actually necessary, and it turns out to be enough, more than enough, a sufficiency the busy day never let you feel. You do not need the 100 things the day insisted on. Here, in the cabin of the night, with 3 chairs and a pond outside, you have exactly what a life requires, and not one thing more, and it is plenty. So set down, tonight, the quiet desperation, the reaching, the owing, the burden you agreed to carry. You do not need it here. Here there is only the essential, and the essential is restful, and you are allowed to live, for this one night, as deliberately and simply as a man in a small cabin by a still pond, with nothing to do but be alive in the quiet. Feel how little you need. Feel the sufficiency of the simple, essential facts holding you. A breath, a bed, the dark, enough. More than enough. Let us go on, simpler now, toward sleep. Chapter 39. What you can set down. We are near the end now, and the night has done its quiet work, and I want, in this chapter, simply to gather what you can set down, so that you carry nothing heavy across the border into sleep. You can set down the past, not because it did not matter, but because it is finished, and a finished thing cannot be reached or fixed or fought, only understood. And you have understood it tonight enough. It is complete. It is necessary. It is a wave that has already broken and slipped back into the sea. There is nothing in it that needs you to guard it tonight. You can set it down. You can set down the replay, the conversation you kept editing. You have seen that it was never a debate to be won, but a need to be felt, and that the replay could never meet the need, and that the need you can begin to meet yourself gently with understanding. The scene can go dark. You can set it down. You can set down the accounts. The tally of what is owed, by you, to you. The books of a finished day are closed, and most of what felt owed at midnight will look, in the morning, like it was never really owed at all. You can set down the ledger. You can set down the vigilance, the shift no one assigned you, the lit rectangle of the mind. There is no watch to keep tonight. The world rests and rises again without your guarding. You can clock out. You can set it down. You can set down the bitterness, if any remains, toward whoever closed the door on you. You have seen that they acted from their causes as necessarily as rain, and that the second arrow of anger would wound only you. You do not have to carry it. You can set it down. You can set down the grief for the self you outgrew. That self is not lost. It is folded inside you, carried gently onward, part of the water you are made of. You have not lost yourself. You have only flowed forward, as you were always going to. You can set down the grieving, and you can set down the trying, the effort to let go by force. You have learned the other way, the way that actually works, the opening of the hand through understanding. You do not have to try anymore. The hand is already open. You can set down even the effort. That is nearly everything the mind brought to bed tonight, and you can set all of it down here at the edge of sleep, because none of it is needed where you are going. Sleep does not require you to carry anything. It asks you, in fact, to carry nothing at all, to arrive empty-handed and open, the way you arrive at all the deepest and most restful places. Feel your hands open and empty in the dark. Feel how light you are, having set it all down. There is nothing in your hands, and nothing on your chest, and nothing you must hold through the night. It is all understood, and all set down, and you are free to rest. Let us go on, empty-handed and light, toward the last quiet. Chapter 40. The Lens and the Last Light. Picture, one more time, the small room, the bench, the lamp burning low, the fine glass dust hanging in the light, and the man at the bench turning a lens slowly under his hands, checking it against the light, turning it again, patient, unhurried, content. It is evening, near the end of his life, though he does not make a great matter of that. He has lived as he wished to live. He lost his world at 23 and did not let it make him bitter. He turned down money and honor to keep his freedom. He ground glass by day and wrote his book by night. Slowly, by hand, one careful, clear idea after another, the whole architecture of a peaceful mind. He asked for very little, a little bread, a pipe, a quiet room, the freedom to think his own thoughts. And he found in that small and simple life a contentment that the powerful and the wealthy of his age, with all their getting, never reached. The lens turns under his hands and catches the last light of the day, and for a moment the whole small room is held in its glow. There is something almost unbearably gentle in the picture. A man who spent his days making it easier for others to see clearly, and his nights making it easier for any mind, including yours, 3.5 centuries later, to see clearly enough to find peace. The lens and the book were the same work. Both were about turning a blur into a clear, true image. Both were about helping a thing, an eye or a mind, to see. He is calm at the bench, this man, the way you are growing calm in the dark. Not because nothing ever hurt him, a great deal hurt him, but because he understood it all so clearly that it had stopped pushing him around. He had ground his own mind true, the way he ground the glass patiently over a lifetime until it gave a clear image and a quiet light. And the quiet light is what everyone who met him remembered. The serenity, the peace that did not depend on anything going his way, because it was built on understanding, which depends on nothing the world can take. That same patient grinding is what you have done tonight, in a few hours, with your own troubled mind. You took the blurred, warm, heavy thoughts you came to bed with, and you turned them slowly in the light and ground them clear until they gave a true image and grew light and quiet. You have done in one night a small version of what he did across a life, and you are lying now in the same quiet light he lived in, the serene light. The clear, contented, undemanding peace of a mind that has understood and set down and come home to itself. The lamp burns low, the lens catches the last of the light. The room is quiet, and the man is content, and the night is gentle, and you are nearly asleep. Feel the quiet light around you. Feel the clear, contented peace of a mind that has done its grinding and can rest. There is nothing left to make clear tonight. The image is true. The light is quiet. You can rest in it now. Let us go on into the last and softest chapters toward the sentence and sleep. Chapter 41. A Quiet Death. In February of 1677, in a rented room in The Hague, Baruch Spinoza died. He was 44 years old. His lungs, worn by years of fine glass dust, gave out quietly. By the accounts that survive, he died calmly, as he had lived, without drama, without terror, in the company of his understanding. He had asked for very little from life, and he left very little behind. A few books, his tools, some letters, and one great work, the Ethics, which he had kept back from publication while he lived, knowing how the world would receive it. His friends gathered it after his death and printed it, quietly, so that the long patient work of his nights would not be lost. There is a peace in how he met the end. He had spent his life learning that the things the world can take were never truly his. and that the one thing that was his clear understanding, no death could touch. So when the end came, it found a man already at home in himself, already resting in what is, already free. The wheel turned as it always turns, and the part of him that was never on the wheel was not afraid. We are not here tonight to dwell on endings. I tell you of his quiet death only because it was the proof of his whole life. A man who had truly made peace with the finished and the necessary met the most finished and necessary thing of all without fear. The calm he taught was not a theory. It carried him all the way to the end, gently. And the book his friends saved holds, in its last pages, the sentence I left on the table for you in the first hour of the night. We are almost there now, almost ready. Feel the quiet, feel the breath, slow and easy. There is no fear here. There is only rest. Let us go on softly. Chapter 42, What the Night Was For. If you are still faintly here, on the edge of sleep, you do not need to hold on. Let the words move past you like slow water. You have already received what mattered. Let me gather the night gently, one last time, so you can carry it lightly into sleep. We came to this hour with a mind turning the day over and over, holding it close to the fire. And we did not fight it. We turned it slowly in the light instead, until it grew clear. We learned that suffering comes from confused ideas and peace from clear ones. That the past is finished and necessary and could not have been otherwise. That you do not let go by deciding to, but by understanding until the hand opens on its own. We sat with a man who lost his whole world and kept his peace because he understood. We learned that freedom is not escaping what is, but understanding it. That you are a wave in the sea, not separate, not alone, held the whole time by something vast and calm. That is what the night was for, not to fix your life. Your life did not need fixing tonight. It needed understanding and rest, and you have given it both. There is nothing left to do now. The work is done, the clearing is finished. What remains is only sleep, and you are nearly there. Feel how light you are. Feel how quiet the mind has become. Feel the body heavy and held, ready to let go the last little bit. Let us go on, almost there now. Chapter 43, Blessed. There is one more thing Spinoza wrote near the very end of his book, just before the sentence we have been waiting for. It prepares the way for it, so let us hear it first, softly. He wrote that blessedness is not the reward of virtue, but virtue itself. Sit with how gentle that is. We usually think peace is a prize you earn. Do the right things, and someday, later, you will be given calm as your reward. But Spinoza saw it the other way around. The peace is not the payment that comes after. The peace is the thing itself. Understanding is not rewarded with calm. Understanding is calm. To see clearly is already to be at rest. There is no later. There is no someday. The seeing and the peace are one and the same. This is why he could be content in a small room, in a short life, with little. He was not waiting for his reward. He had it in the understanding itself, every day, at the bench, in the quiet. The blessedness was not coming. It was here, in the clear seeing, which is its own reward and asks for nothing further. And this is true for you tonight. The peace you are lying in is not a prize for having understood. It is the understanding itself, felt from the inside. You do not have to wait for rest as a reward for a good day or a solved problem. The rest is here, now, in the clear and quiet seeing you have grown into through the night. It was never going to arrive later. It only ever arrives as this, as understanding which is already peace. You are blessed in his sense right now. Not because the day went well, not because everything is solved, but because you understand, and understanding is its own blessing. Here, in the dark, asking nothing, feel it. The peace that is not a reward, but the thing itself. Already here, already yours. Let us hear the sentence now. We are ready. Chapter 44. All things excellent. In the very last pages of the Ethics, after all the careful argument, after the whole architecture of a peaceful mind has been built, Spinoza lays down his pen with one final sentence. It is the stone I set on the table in the first hour of the night. We are ready for it now. He has just described the peace that understanding brings, the clear and quiet love of what is, the rest that depends on nothing the world can take. And he knows it is not easy. He knows that most people never find it, that it asks a patient turning of the mind that few are willing to do. And so he ends, not with a promise that it is simple, but with one honest, beautiful line. If the way I have shown is very hard, he writes, it can yet be found. It must be hard, since it is so seldom discovered. For if salvation were easy, and could be found without great effort, how could it be that it is neglected by almost everyone? And then the last words, all things excellent are as difficult as they are rare. Hear it near sleep. All things excellent are as difficult as they are rare. He is not scolding, he is comforting. He is telling you that the peace is real, that it can be found, that he found it, that you can find it, but that it is rare and not easy. And so you must not be hard on yourself for not having had it all along. The fact that it took a whole night, the fact that it takes a life, is not your failing. It is the nature of the thing. Excellent things are rare precisely because they are difficult. The difficulty is not a sign that peace is beyond you. It is a sign that peace is excellent, and excellent things are earned slowly by the patient turning of the mind in the light. You did that tonight. You did the rare and difficult thing. You turned your troubled mind slowly in the light until it grew clear and quiet. Most people on most nights do not. You did, and the peace you are lying in is the excellent, rare, hard-won thing itself, and you found it the way he promised it could be found. All things excellent are as difficult as they are rare, and you have found one of them here in the dark tonight. Feel it, the rare and quiet peace, hard won, and here and yours. Let us go on into the last of the quiet, towards sleep. Chapter 45, Finished and Safe. The past is finished, and a finished thing is a safe thing. We forget that. At night the past feels dangerous, alive, still able to hurt us, but it cannot. It is done. It is sealed. Nothing in it is still moving. It only felt alive because the mind kept holding it close to the fire. You have stopped holding it there. You have let it cool, and cooled, it is only what it always was, a thing that happened, finished, over, unable to reach you here. There is nothing in yesterday that can come into this room tonight. The door is closed gently, and you are on this side of it, safe in the dark, in the quiet. Whatever it was, it is behind you now. Understood, set down, cooled, safe. And you do not have to guard it anymore. You do not have to fight it anymore. You do not have to fix it tonight or ever, because it is finished, and finished things ask nothing. Let the past be the past. Let it rest the way you are resting. It is done. You are here, and here there is only quiet. Feel the safety of the finished day. Feel how nothing in it can reach you now. Let your breath slow. Let us go on, softly, almost there. Chapter 46, The Quarrel That Only You Could End. In the very first hour, I told you the heart of the whole night. In a single line, the mind does not suffer from what happened. It suffers from its quarrel with what happened. We have lived all the way into that truth now, and on the far side of it, near sleep, it can be said even more simply. You were never kept awake by what happened. Only by the quarrel with it that you alone could end. The thing itself was always quiet, finished, necessary, a wave that broke and slipped back. What kept you awake was not the wave. It was the arguing with the wave, the wishing it had broken differently, the long quarrel with a sea that was only being the sea. And the quarrel was always yours to end, not the other person's, not the world's, yours, because you were the only one still having it. The argument lived in you, and so the ending of it lived in you too. No one else could lay it down, and tonight you did. You ended the quarrel. Not by winning it, by understanding, until there was nothing left to argue. The sea was only being the sea. The past was only being finished. And you at last stopped fighting and grew quiet and let it be what it is. That is the whole of it. That is everything Spinoza spent his life learning and everything we have done tonight. The quarrel is over. You ended it. And in its place there is only this: quiet, rest. The sea, calm now, and you, held in it, asleep soon. Feel the quiet where the quarrel used to be. Feel how still it is now, inside. Let us go on into that stillness, towards sleep. Chapter 47, The Room Again. Come back for a moment to where we began. It is the hour after midnight. The house is still. The street outside is empty, and the only thing that was moving in the room when we started was your mind. It is quiet now. The same hour, the same still house, the same dark. But the mind that was turning the day over and over is no longer turning. It has set the day down. It has ended its quarrel. It has come to rest. Nothing about the room has changed. The change is in you. You carried something heavy into this hour, and you have set it down, not by force, but by understanding. The way a man at a bench grinds a blur into a clear, true image, and then rests in the quiet light. The lamp is low, the room is warm, the dark is kind, and you are not at war with anything anymore. This is the same night you came into, hours ago, restless and holding, but you are not the same. You are quieter, lighter. At rest in yourself, in the way Spinoza spent his life learning, and you learned tonight in a few quiet hours. The mind is still now. The room is still. The hour is still. Feel how far you have come without going anywhere at all. Feel the stillness where the turning used to be. Let us go on into the last quiet, towards sleep. Chapter 48, Sleep. There is almost nothing left to say now, and that is how it should be. The day is finished. You have set it down. The quarrel is over. You ended it. Your hands are open. Your mind is quiet. Your body is heavy and held. There is nothing to fix tonight, nothing to guard, nothing to carry. It is all understood and all set down and all safe. The past is behind you, finished and cooled. Tomorrow is not here yet and does not need you tonight. There is only this, the breath, slow and easy, the weight of the body, sinking, the dark, kind and quiet, holding you the way the sea holds a wave. You are a small, real, held part of something vast and calm. It is not against you, it never was. It is holding you now, while you rest, the way it holds everything, by laws you do not have to manage, with a care you do not have to earn. Let the breath slow, let the body sink, let the mind grow dim and soft and quiet. There is nothing more to understand tonight. The work is done, the peace is here. It was never a reward you had to wait for. It is the understanding itself, and you have it, now in the dark. Let go of the last little bit. You do not have to hold anything, not even this. Rest now. You are safe. You are held. You are free. Sleep now.